All right, everybody, how are we doing today? Hello, hello, hello. How are we doing? We all doing okay? We finally got a real chapter out. I don't know what's going on with TCB. I simply don't know. I simply do not know. Keenan, good to see you, man. I believe you were scheduled to join stream yesterday. I'm sorry about that. No TCB chapter. I sent you an email. I hope you got the email, man. Um, in chat, thanks for the long time support, of course, man. In chapter 1131, Loki offered to beat any pirate crew in for Luffy in exchange for freedom. But that doesn't sound like Luffy. Do you think he changed the deal? I think Luffy just, based off of the way that chapter ended, it sounded as though it was in exchange for information about Shanks. Because Loki said something like, he mentioned Shanks. Luffy was like, what do you know about Shanks? Loki was like, well, I'm not going to tell you unless, I think the implication was that unless you help. Thanks, Keenan. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. We'll send the reschedule link very soon, this Monday. Sending it Monday just because the next month's Calendly schedule has to get set up first. All right. To be fair to TCB scans, it was Thanksgiving. That's true, but like, okay, honestly, I think TCB needs to go back to having some sort of an update system because they used to have a Twitter, right? They used to have a Twitter. They used to update in some ways. Do they have a Discord? Do they have something in which they like tell people what's going on? Because if they want to say like, hey, it's just coming out late because of Thanksgiving, that's totally okay. But with this, it's just like, yeah, it's just the chapter. Just I think I'd be cool with it coming out Saturdays. Like, it's not even the timing that matters that much to me. I'd be cool with it coming out Saturdays. It's literally just at the end of the day. It's what day is it coming out? Just tell us the day. Whatever time you think you need, do it. Just stick with that time and just roll with that time, basically, right? I feel like I'm speaking to myself because I'm like that with the streams, but that's different. It's not that different. I should stick to times that are more realistic for me. But still, with TCB, it's just, before they could do it, I just remember, okay, here's how I remember it, all right? Before they were getting it out on Thursdays. Then OP scans showed up. OP scans started getting that shit out on Wednesdays, okay? That changed the game. So TCB would stick to Thursdays, but sometimes if they pushed hard enough, they would even get it out on Wednesdays, all right? Then OP scans goes away. OP scans goes away. So now what happens is TCB starts being like, okay, we get them out on Thursdays, back to the comfortable schedule, and sometimes we get them out on Fridays. It's like, okay, Thursdays, but sometimes Fridays. And now it's switched into, okay, usually Fridays, sometimes Thursdays. And then slowly it's just shifted into what happened the last few chapters. I want to say the last two chapters is Fridays, but sometimes Saturdays. Or maybe not the last few, you know what I mean? Like the last few times, I feel like out of the last 4 chapters or something, it's been Saturdays a couple times. So it's just been this sliding scale of like, maybe this day, but maybe this day. Now maybe this day, but maybe this day. So to me, it's just, it's the gray. If it's a Wednesday or a Thursday, that's fine. Just, I need to know the day. If it's a Thursday or Friday, that's fine. I just need to know the day. If it's a Friday or Saturday, that's fine. I just, if it's coming out on Saturdays, that's okay. Just, I don't know. And then the frustrating thing is, I feel like they play with fire because it slides back and slides back and slides back. So then it's like, okay, Thursdays, we can get it out on Fridays. Fridays, we can get it out on Saturdays. And then once they do that, then some new scan group shows up and starts putting out their shitty scans and shitty translations 1 or 2 days before, like on a Thursday or Friday, and beat out TCB. And then it's like, oh, now we're doing this bullshit again. Now it's like, okay, which scan group are we reading? What's everybody doing? And then TCB then turns on the jets, and then they catch up, and then they start putting it out earlier again. So now we'll probably go back to a schedule of like it being released Thursdays or Fridays, but only long enough till that other scan group goes away, and then they'll probably go back to like Fridays or Saturdays. I just want a consistent date, and I don't want it to be purely competition based. Why? I don't understand. Noah Long, thanks for the 5. I love that this is Bonnie's first adventure with her dad and first adventure fully free. What are your thoughts? I'm going to be honest, I don't care about Bonnie right now, almost at all. Like, I think I'm, like, not in a sense that I dislike the character. I like her, I like Kuma. But at this moment in time, I'm not interested in them in this arc. Like, this arc for me is about, I want to see more of the Straw Hats. Like the real Straw Hats, like the maybe Bonnie becomes a Straw Hat, right? So that's its own discussion. But I am invested in seeing more stuff for the group that I've been following for so fucking long. Like, Egghead was great for all these other characters. Love the storyline for Kuma. Love the storyline for Bonnie. Love the storyline for all the other guys, right? All the people we're cutting to. Even Vegapunk, Kobe, etc., right? Right now, I am in Straw Hat mode. I'm in pre-time skip mode. It feels very pre-time skippy, these last few chapters. Just the vibe, sense of adventure, smaller group hanging around together, their dynamics. It feels more like that. It feels very similar to the Skypiea intro. So I'm enjoying that right now, okay? I do not give a shit about if we could throw, just for a little bit, not forever, but if we could throw Bonnie, Kuma, Lilith, who else? Bonnie, Kuma, Lilith, just throw them in the ocean for a little bit. Just have them swim around for some time. I'd be perfectly okay with that, honestly. Irene Shada Forever says, here comes more just Straw Hat buys. The whole fucking story started off about the Straw Hats. The first 500 chapters of the story. 500 chapters of the story. I'm reading a fucking story about the Straw Hats. I feel like it's kind of... I feel like I'm being gaslit to think that it would be weird to think that the Straw Hats, like... I feel like it's gaslighting. I feel like it's like, oh, why are you worried about the Straw... Like, care about these new characters. It's like, dude, you got me into the story based off of these characters, right? For 500 chapters, it was about these characters. The time skip fucking ended with all of them, like, getting ready to train, right? Luffy saying, I still have all my friends, right? Re-emphasizing the importance of this main cast of characters, yada yada. And I feel like post-time skip, it's alternated between either being the Luffy show or random side characters show. Tom, thanks for me. Yonko to remember for 26 months. Marines raid cross guild led by Fujitora. T-Bone is playing dead to... Okay, hold it. Marines raid cross guild led by Fujitora. Oh, T-Bone is playing dead to infiltrate them. Mihawk beats Fujitora. Smoker beats Crocodile. Buggy beats T-Bone. I don't think Oda would do Fujitora dirty like that. Not that Mihawk can't beat him, but I'm just saying that I don't think that... I think that if there was a Marine that Oda would throw under the bus like that, just to be used as Mihawk hype, I think it would be Green Bull, personally. Smoker beats Crocodile, Buggy beats T-Bone. I don't think Buggy can beat T-Bone. That would essentially be like... I mean, maybe through some shenanigans, but... Remember, Buggy is still his East Blue level, right? As far as we know, he's not gotten any stronger, as of late. So Buggy is still his East Blue level, which means that essentially, from Buggy's perspective, T-Bone is like a Yonko, right? That's basically what it's like. The gap is very big. I think that's an interesting idea, the Marines raiding Cross Guild, but I got the sense... I gotta read the T-Bone capture scene again. I got the sense that it was very legit. Dex, thanks for the 10, man. I'm sorry, I don't think your comment popped up. Sheriff Laffy, thanks for being a Yonko cheer member for 26 months. What do you think Louis are not meant by don't linger in Elbaf? Does staying turn you into a giant? Blood sacrifice to the gods. That is, unfortunately, a video that is coming out this Tuesday. So watch out for that. I think that... I don't know if it turns you into a giant. I don't think it turns you into a giant. So something interesting is... Okay, so the guy in the silhouette, right? The guy in the silhouette is likely the same person that was drinking with Crocus, right? Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick, just because we got a new chapter up. So the guy in the silhouette... he's been there, it seems like, a little bit longer than Shanks. So if you go back to chapter 1076, I can't actually share chapters here with you guys just because it's just not good to do that when a new chapter just came out. Could get you in trouble. So if I go back to 1076, right? So let's see. In 1076, I think I spent a bit too much time, but you can't blame us for wanting to catch up when old friends who thought each other dead are reunited. Does everyone know what I'm talking about, right? Does everyone know what I'm talking about? In chapter 1076, like there's two options, right? So if we piece out what Oda's saying about why you shouldn't stay in Elbaf too long, there's two options. Either there's something literal about the island itself that affects you, or there is some malevolent force to the island, right? I personally think I don't even have to go with the Shanks example, although we can talk about the Shanks example again when we talk. Let's leave the Shanks example aside for the moment. I don't think there's something about the island that will affect you physically and transform you, because we had the Big Mom flashback, right? And in the Big Mom flashback, it did not seem like anything actually that bad happened to Big Mom, to the children or anything like that. So nothing crazy really happened there. So I personally think that it's more likely that there's some malevolent entity in Elbaf, and yeah, just watch out for next week's video, which breaks down why that is. Andra Anami, yeah, Morj will tell you, type it in chat. Yeah, so Dex says Loki's intro in the Underworld paralleled Zoro. Colin, who's on his way to the Sun Realm introduction, paralleled Luffy in Chapter 1. We could meet someone in Heaven Realm the same way we met Nami. So interestingly, what Dex is referencing, this is something I also saw on Twitter. So Loki's intro in the Underworld was extremely similar to Zoro's. It's just very, very similar the way it's done. I broke that out in past streams and past chapter reviews. Colin's introduction is very similar to Luffy. And then we have Nami. People are saying that something could parallel Nami, because I saw somebody say on Twitter that the way that Nami was introduced, she sank a ship in a sense. If you remember that little scene with her and the buggy pirates, she swapped ships with them, and then the buggy pirates' new ship sank because it sailed into a storm. So some people argue that this could be paralleled by the man marked by flames being revealed. I don't know about that though. Man marked by flames travels, so I don't know if man marked by flames would be in Heaven Realm, because it sounds like he travels around this ocean. But we could see that parallel as well. Yeah, here comes Morj protagonist bias. Here's Morj as being main character's bias. Yeah. Akash Banda, good to see you, man. Thanks for the 5. Oda separated the Strats that need character work on purpose. Trust me, they will go through some stuff before they reunite the rest. Morj. Listen, I say trust me, but you guys know that, at the end of the day, it's me trusting the author, right? I have a concern with the fact that the Strats were essentially separated for little to no reason, because it seems to me indicative of the crew just being too big. Because usually and I talk about this in the chapter review, which I've already recorded, usually in the past when Oda separates the Straw Hats, even if it's not for character work, right, it's at the very least to give them different things to do. Like, oh, here, your group goes and, finds the Sunny, while this group goes and, I don't know, fight some bad guys or something, right? There's usually different tasks that are assigned. There's usually some sort of, in-story, some purpose or something. This time, it's literally just Oda took half the Straw Hats, the more important half, I suppose, moved them ahead of the rest of the group, put them on the island, while the other Straw Hats kind of just caught up, right? There was no real purpose to it, other than it felt like Oda wanted to spend some time with just the East Blue 5, I guess 6 if you include Chopper. And I guess that, that little adventure that they had being trapped in Roto's Legoland, it would be too cluttered if you had the entire crew. You know what I mean? It would just be too cluttered if you had the entire crew. So it's almost just it feels like to actually tell little adventures with a group of characters, Oda feels the need to actually just remove other members of the crew to simplify it down. Does that make sense? Like, it's almost as though it's straight up acknowledged, not acknowledged, but it's almost as though it's just, it's almost as though it's just like, okay, I can't actually tell a cutesy little, like, Legoland adventure with, like, fucking 12 characters at the same time, right? So let me simplify it down. Let me just have 5. You get what I'm saying? It's almost as though the story can no longer function having 12 characters, like, having the whole crew together. It's just too many characters. You can't have them all moving in the same plot line. Therefore, the crew needs to be separated every single time now. It's kind of crazy because, like, even at Fishman Island, that was the case. Like, first thing that happens at Fishman Island is they're being separated. It's really fucking rare that, like, they're really just together when they're on a ship. When they're on the ship, that's the only time they're together. And that didn't feel like, if I go back to Thriller Bark, I'm going to be honest. I think that we reached our peak number of Straw Hats around Thriller Bark. Because Thriller Bark, honestly, that was the peak time that the Straw Hats, as a large number of characters, still, I felt, worked together. Because I think it kind of peaked with their oars fight, you know? Like, that's the whole crew grooving, vibing together, right? Like, we get a ton of great scenes and dynamics coming out during the oars fight. It doesn't feel like it feels like everyone's personality shines through. It's really fun to see them all play off each other, and there's not too many of them that it just gets drowned out. I feel like that was kind of where it peaked, and then from there on, every time we reach an island, they've got to just be separated in some way. It just has to happen, right? They just got to all be separated because it's just too many of them into groups and clumps. And I think this was the first time that I can think of that it felt like there was not even a reason to separate them other than Oda's just like, well, this is just too many characters, so let me just have 5 of them go on ahead, start the story with them, and then I can bring in the rest into the fold. I don't know about that. That's what it feels like to me. You could argue the Vivi stuff, but the Vivi stuff doesn't really change because the other crew didn't really see it, right? I mean, like, what's the difference? Because, like, the group that saw it, it has no impact on them. The group that saw it has no impact on them. Are you saying that if the Straw Hats stayed behind, then if the Straw Hats stayed behind, like if they all traveled together on the ship, then they would all read the newspaper and then they would all see the X thing, and they want to avoid that? But Oda didn't need to include the X thing. That was a choice. He was like, Vivi's trying to give a sign to the Straw Hats, but the Straw Hats didn't see it. That's basically it, right? So he could have just not had her do that, you know? Or he could have just not had the Straw Hats get a newspaper, because there was nothing really important in the newspaper for them. They got new bounties for Dory and Brogy. That's it. I don't really, like, there wasn't really any plot there for them, right? Like, it's not like the secondary group of Straw Hats did anything, as far as I can think. There was no story for them, right? It felt like one group had no story, and the other group had a little story. And it just felt like the only reason the first group is not included in the second group's story was because it's likely it would just be too many characters, right? Because what they could, like, because otherwise Oda could have just had all the Straw Hats arrive at Elbaf together. Then, for whatever reason, they get captured by Roto. You can do the same Green Fairy logic. Like, the ship just arrived at Elbaf sailing ahead, right? And then from there, the story plays out exactly the same, right? It just feels like half the group was not included in the first half, in the other half story, because that would just be too many characters. D-Factor, thanks a lot. The rainbows are meant to be cross moment is something that only Oda can make you feel good about. I did like that a lot. The sheer romance of it is something only One Piece can do. My favorite scene of the chapter was definitely them sailing up the rainbow. And then low-key, my favorite moment was, it's hard to explain. So it's like they're sailing up the rainbow, and then they fucking see, Hajruden's group also sailing up the rainbow. I actually like that a lot because it just makes the rainbow feel like this beautiful... like, it's not even a big deal for the Giants. Like, it's just something anyone can join in. It's like this magical dreamlike stream, and then it's just like you're sailing across it, and then you look over and it's like, oh, these other giants are also just like, they just hopped on the rainbow as well. And I like them traveling on different stripes of the rainbow. Yeah, I like the chapter a lot overall. I think this is one of the most visually beautiful chapters we've had. Actually, possibly the most visually beautiful chapter that we've had in One Piece in some time. Yeah. And Elbaf, I'm getting heavy Skypiea vibes with this whole storyline. And I love some of the imagery, like the waterfall that travels down, like in Elbaf Kingdom, right? Elbaf's village, like the waterfall that just spills off the side. I'm a sucker for that sort of shit. Or the multiple waterfalls. Yeah, I like this island a lot. I always like when the island's visually beautiful. I mean, most One Piece islands are visually beautiful. You guys might notice some of them in the back right there. I know you guys were eyeing them, so let me just drop them for you. This is the collection that you all could be building. This isn't even all the islands. This is not even all the islands. Here we go. These are I'm gonna link you guys the ones that are available for the moment, which is Elbaf, Skypiea. We're probably gonna have a new Elbaf poster now that we have the interior as well. So there might be a new version of Elbaf on the way. But yeah, Elbaf, Skypiea, Zoe, Whole Cake. Oda's got some fantastic islands, obviously. If I were to rank, we already did most beautiful islands in One Piece. We did a stream for that. But if I were to say off the top of my head, personally, I think I like Enies Lobby Water 7 quite a bit. Visually, post-time skip, I think Elbaf might be the coolest. I think Egghead was also really cool. The thing is, anything to do with Sky Islands is pretty like Sky Islands, clouds, etc. It's pretty strong. Elbaf's got some Sky Island shit going on as well. King G, thanks for the 5. I think the old friend Shanks is talking about is Copacabana. He's the silhouette we saw with Crocus at the start of Elbaf. So let's do a poll for that real quick, because I do believe that's the case as well. Who is the silhouette? Scopper, Gabon, Crocus. I think Oda just threw us with the hair, but the hair color can change, right? Scopper, Gabon, Crocus. I mean, it can change in One Piece, right? I feel like that's not the first time something like that has happened. Other. Oh shit, I did it wrong. Not Scopper, Gabon, Crocus. Here, hold on. Let's do that one more time. Who is the silhouette? Scopper, Gabon, Shiki, and other. I think those are the main options, right? Scopper, Gabon, Shiki, other. I personally feel like, okay, again, so going back to chapter 1076, what Shanks says is, I think I spent a bit too much time talking, but can you blame us for wanting to catch up when old friends who thought each other dead are reunited? So I'm like, who thought each other dead? Who thought each other dead? Because the characters they would be talking about, either they're characters that are Elbaf specific, right? Maybe they're talking about Dorian Brogy, but I don't know how Shanks would have met Dorian Brogy and why he would have thought that they were dead. Dorian Brogy are from Little Garden. I mean, I guess you could, maybe Shanks and them came across there, but it doesn't sound... It sounds like Dorian Brogy are newer friends to Shanks. It's hard to say. Like, Dorian Brogy have been fighting at Little Garden for 100 years, right? So it's unlikely that it's Dorian Brogy to me. And then beyond that, like, Loki doesn't seem like a friend of Shanks's. So it seems like it's likely the Silhouette guy, right? The Silhouette guy is who Shanks was speaking to, in which case it might have been Scopper Gabon. That's my thoughts on that. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Okay, so a lot of people are saying Scopper, some people are saying Shiki, a lot of people think it's a new character. Yeah, that about follows. That seems about right. I'm going to go with Scopper for the moment, otherwise maybe it's a new character. If it's Shiki, then Oda just fucking played all of us. I mean, not all of us, a lot of people think it's Shiki, but like, a lot of people think it's Shiki. I mean, I'm just saying if it's Shiki, then it's kind of just like, Shiki would be the obvious pick to most people, right? Because you just see it from the, like, even from when we saw it way back drinking with Crocus, everyone was just like, that looks like Shiki. But then it's like, Shiki's a movie character, so a lot of people just, including myself, just wrote off, he's canon to the story, but also he's used in a movie already, so a lot of people already wrote him off, because generally the movie characters don't actually show up again in the manga. Like, I don't think we're ever going to see Uta in the manga, even though she's supposedly canon to the story, which is BS, right? I don't think we're ever going to see Gil Tessero or whatever the fuck, right? So it's kind of just like, it's the obvious character, but we believe that there's a reason that Oda wouldn't include him again in the main story. So that's why Shiki's a hard call. So I'm going with Scopper Gaban as, I suppose, the second obvious character. Tom, thanks for the 5-man. Fujitora is the perfect opponent. Strong swordsman. He's a swordsman, doesn't take a fight away from good guys, master of observation, Smoker W, set up in Alabasta. I just don't know if, like, Oda would disrespect Fujitora, because Fujitora is supposed to be, like, I think there's a lot of character depth to Fujitora that is still yet to be explored. I think he's presented as a very wise, sage like character. While he is strong and he is a swordsman and he would be a cool fight for Mihawk, I'm just saying I feel like Fujitora matters more in the story than just being a character for Mihawk to defeat. I think he just represents more. That's why I personally don't know if Oda would just have Fujitora just lose to Mihawk. I could easily see, like, I could see Mihawk beating him, obviously, but I'm just saying that I don't know if Oda would throw Fujitora under the bus like that. I feel like Green Bull is a good shot because Green Bull is the one that's being written as a sort of cookie cutter, evil admiral that nobody likes, that readers would be happy to see defeated, who is also a swordsman, right? So I feel like Green Bull could easily be a good just the easiest throwaway marine. I just feel like Fujitora has a bit too much, like, dignity and respect being attached to his character for Oda to just have him lose like that. I don't know. Muhammad D. Luffy, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 23 months. Do you think Oda is giving extra attention to Usopp and Luffy in this arc? I think so. I think just the fact that Oda's cutting to them more frequently, at least cutting to Usopp and reminding us over and over that this is Usopp's dream and this is specifically important for Usopp, I think that's a really good sign. I think there are good signs that this is an arc that's set to be important for a lot of Straw Hats, but it is still too early to tell. I think Usopp's the only shoe-in. I do get the sense this might be important for Nami as well, though. Mr. MMF2, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 26 months. Yo, Mo Jesse, if Yujiro was in the One Piece world, how strong do you think his Conqueror's Haki is? Also, where would you rank Baki as an MC? So Yujiro, if he was in the One Piece world, I think he'd be like another Kaido. He'd basically be like Kaido. So I think he'd have, like, top-tier Conqueror's Haki, you know? He'd have really strong Conqueror's Haki, really high-level advanced Conqueror's Haki, all that shit. Yeah, that's how I view Yujiro. He'd be like a Kaido. I think simply because of the values in the One Piece world, I don't think Oda would ever give, like, I don't think Yujiro would have the strongest Conqueror's Haki. Just because the way One Piece world values kind of play into who has the strongest Conqueror's Haki, but Yujiro would still be top tier. He'd be like a Kaido-esque character. Where would I rank Baki as an MC? Low. Baki to me is like a meme MC. He's not a meme MC. It's just Baki the series is a meme to me. So Baki as an MC, I just think too much of his shit is too ridiculous, and too much of it, like, it's too ridiculous. It's too, like, I don't take a lot of his character stuff too seriously. One of his biggest character moments of character growth, or him, like, reaching the next level, was him having sex for the first time. And after he had sex for the first time, that, like, elevated him, like, in terms of his mind and soul, to become, like a lot stronger than he was before. Like, that's the type of growth you get from Baki, you know? I just don't really, I don't view Baki as a serious series, or the main character as a serious main character. Baki for me personally, also just like in terms of fun stuff, like how much do I enjoy the main character? He's a character that alternates too much for me between like being a bitch and being cool and a badass and like having badass moments. So for me, it's just like I don't know. Those types of characters, they can be a little bit like I can be a little bit back and forth on them. That's not my type of main character. Sheriff Laffy, thanks for the 5. What straw teams do you want to see this arc? For me, Luffy, Nami, Usopp. I think Luffy, Nami, Usopp is a great team because the way things are split up is pretty nice, right? Like Luffy's the fighter, and then Nami and Usopp are both more intelligent characters who can both definitely use like Usopp and Nami are both characters who have phenomenal character writing potential. And one of my favorite little bits in the story was actually just Luffy and Nami going through Seducing Woods and having the encounter with Sanji. Because when you narrow it down to just Luffy and Nami, like a lot of the potential of Nami is like a dramatic focus or bringing out dramatic emotions. It's harder to do when she's in an ensemble. But once you connect her with just Luffy, like Luffy and Nami and Skypiea, or Luffy and Nami and Whole Cake, then there's a ton of potential for actually writing Nami like a multi-dimensional character who has more, like, who has a wider range of emotions and dramatic depth and everything like that. Because she's more grounded, right? I feel like Usopp also works in that same way because when he's not just being used for gags and jokes and stuff like that, he has great moments of character drama and character depth. So connecting them both with Luffy ensures that it's a small group, so their human side can come out more. And two, they're both not strong, so while Luffy will be responsible for most of the combat, you're able to rely on them to bounce off of Luffy for a lot of drama and emotion, right? Then Chopper, Robin, Frankie, Brook, and another, and Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbei. I think Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbei, I just think it's too many cooks, if that makes sense. Like, they're all strong. They're all very capable. I would like to see at least... I like seeing Zoro and Sanji and Luffy in different groups, personally. Unless there's, like, a big team fight going down against, like, a really strong character. If I were to say what Straw Hat teams I would want to see, it depends how many groups we get split up into. I would like no more than 3 groups to split up into. Because then it just... I personally feel that when we split into more than 3, it's just the rate of... the chapter pacing just becomes very, very, very slow. And we don't get to spend that much time with any individual group. It's just like you got to cover 5 or 6 different scenes. So it's just cutting around a lot. I think Egghead suffered a lot from that towards the latter part of it. Or even during the mid part. Like, there's a lot of points in Egghead where it's like, okay, we're spending like 2 minutes with like Usopp, Frankie, whoever's group or whatever, as they're exploring. Like, they're all split up and doing their detective work or whatever. We spend 2 minutes with this group for like a quick scene. And then we're cutting over to Luffy and Zoro fighting Lucci and stuff. And then Sanji doing something. Like, it's all very quick. You don't really get to sink into any scene. And then at the end, it all felt kind of like a little pointless when we just found out it's York, and then we kind of moved on with the night, and Oda didn't even show us the rest of the night. I think three different groups is kind of good to me. 3 different groups is kind of good to me. I personally think that I think 3 groups is good to me. If I were to split into 3 groups, I do like the Luffy, Nami, Usopp group. I wonder if Usopp might be better served actually being separate from Luffy, though. I think Usopp might be well served if he's separate from Luffy and kind of the captain of his own story. Like, he should still have other characters with him, but I don't know who. I think Luffy, Nami, I'd like to pair together. I think Frankie, Robin, I'd like to pair together. I think Usopp, I'd like to keep separate. I think I'd have Usopp, Brook. I think I'd have Luffy, Nami, Chopper. I think I'd have Frankie, Robin, Jinbei, Sanji. And then Usopp, Brook, and Zoro last as their own group. Zoro might take too much attention from Usopp, but I think it would be mainly be action stuff. I think it's hard. I think it's really hard because like it's almost impossible. It would be based more so on like what's the actual storylines that are going to develop in this arc, you know? Let me travel through these comments a little bit faster. Okay. Log TM, thanks for the 5. Hey, Morj, thoughts on Casa Hat being Scopper? I think he was positioned at Elbaf like Rayleigh was at Sabaody. Hey, thanks for your first super ever. Yes, I do personally. I'm leaning right now that it's going to be Scopper just because of Shanks' comment in 1076 about how they're meeting old friends again. So maybe this guy spoke to Shanks, and then if this guy also spoke to Crocus way back, then it's kind of more likely to be a member of the Roger Pirates. That's my thought there. Darkride94, thanks for your first super ever. Hey, Morj, been around since the Wano podcast days. Just want to say I love your in-depth analysis on things and how well articulated you are. Thanks a lot, man. I forgot. Wano report days. Holy shit, that's a long way back. Also, for those of you who are interested in getting the Pirate King podcast, which comes out once a month, the submissions are currently open for that. So submissions should be open. So if you want to join in, it's an hour and a half long podcast that I release once a month that I'm answering all of your guys' questions that are related to One Piece, not One Piece, anime, manga, other movies, TV, life, NBA, whatever, video games. You can submit your questions. Every single question gets answered in depth on the Pirate King podcast. So if you want to catch that, most Pirate King members say that that's their favorite form of Morj content. So if you want to catch that, then feel free to become a Pirate King member. You can still get your submissions in over the weekend. Akash Panda, thanks for the 5. Rainbow currents offer little resistance. Resistance against what? Light? I want to smoke whatever Oda smokes when coming up with this stuff. Surreal. I will say that like we did actually hit a part of the ocean where they had circular rainbows. Like, you remember that? Circle rainbows or something? So that felt somewhat similar to this. So I was like, you guys have been close to rainbows before, but they never rode rainbows. That's definitely true. That's definitely due. I feel like this is... Elbaf is already one of the most magical islands the Strats have ever been to. I think it's right up there with Skypiea in terms of the defying logic type idea of like, you know, and I feel like we even got a bit of a reference with the island cloud, like the sky clouds even being a thing again in this chapter. Athzalahar, thanks a lot for the 5. When we first met Saul, he said, I'm nothing like those Elbaf giants. Dory saying there are many villages, maybe not all of them are war-centric. Oh, thanks for your first super ever. I feel like we've also seen, though, that not every giant is... I don't know. I feel like Elbaf is the homeland of the giants. Or are you saying, like, there's other villages on the island? And I get that, but, like, I feel like Elbaf refers to the island as well. So if he's not saying that, you know, while there's other villages, I feel like this is the prime, like, Warland, like, Elbaf, the island, is Warland. So if you're saying that there's other giant villages throughout the world, yeah, maybe Saul's from one of them, but I got the sense that this is, like, really the hub of the giants in the world, you know? Viraj D0311, thanks a lot. Bonnie being close to Jinbei, the dad of the crew, a few chapters back, and in this chapter, Robin, the mom of the crew, definitely boosts the Bonnie for Straw Hat stocks. I mean, I still think Bonnie is likely to be a Straw Hat at this point in time. I think there's just probably one last part of the story, which is whatever the fuck the fallout is with Kuma, if there is fallout with Kuma. But I do think that she's been shaped for Straw Hat at this point in time. Marcel Beans, thanks for being a Pirate King to remember for 10 months, man. Holy shit. No offense, but Road/Rhoda reminded me of Sanji of this chapter, especially with Sanji acting like him in front of Gerd. I don't think Sanji would do what... Like, I don't think Sanji would literally undress women without their consent. At the same time, he did have that scene where he was in Nami's body, but I feel like that... In real world standards, that, what do you call? The scene with him and Nami's body I just view as somewhat different. Because, like, I think it was supposed to be treated more comedically because of the body swap that happened. So it's kind of like, it's not quite the same. I don't know. At least that's how I think Oda was trying to I think that Sanji would, if he had I think that he wouldn't do. I think that in general he would not undress women without their consent or whatever, because he's always very, um, he's always putting like how you treat a lady on a pedestal, like as a concept. At the same time, his perviness, like he wanted to create like a one way mirror or whatever, right, and put it in the women's bathroom, or like he wanted the invisibility fruit, right, like, so it's complicated. It's like, it's complicated isn't like, this is just old school Oda humor that he uses with Sanji, which I think I think most readers don't think is funny anymore. I'd say the simple problem with Sanji's humor and his gag is basically that like a lot of it was already dated. Like a lot of it, like even if you go back to what it was towards the beginning, like it comes from a dated place, which is just like ah ha ha, this guy that's very perverted and like lusts over women a lot, right? So that's something that like most people at this point find dated and not that funny in terms of anime humor. It's just not very original. But then at the same time, the bigger problem is that Oda's kind of taken it further and further. Like, so whereas in terms of like viewership standards, it's like leaning further and further away as time goes on from finding that sort of thing funny. From Oda's own personal sense of humor, he seems to actually find it funnier and funnier as time goes on to make Sanji more and more perverted, and like the nosebleed gag became a thing. He's definitely more of a perv post time skip than he was pre time skip by like a long shot. So it's just it's an area where there's just a dramatic divergence in terms of like what readers enjoy and the direction the author kept going. So it is what it is. But I don't think he's as bad as Gerd. Dick so small I piss on my walls thanks to the 5. I like the idea of the silhouette is Shiki who trained Kid and his son Killer. Oh, you think Killer's Shiki's son? I think it being Shiki would just be, it would be interesting. Like, it being Scopper Gaban is obviously interesting because we get more details about the truth of the world, etc. most likely. It being Shiki is more, like, it being Scopper Gaban is very interesting. It being Shiki is exciting because Shiki we know is a very powerful pirate who could pose as a very significant threat on Elbaf. So it's two different avenues. I think that with Shiki, like, I don't know if he trained Kid and Killer or whatever, but if we just walk back through what this character was doing, I can't really imagine Shiki drinking with Crocus unless there was a lot that happened off screen. Because, like, Shiki fought the Roger Pirates. I don't know if he'd even fucking recognize Crocus as, like, the doctor from the crew. You know? Like, to me, that's like, if like, 20 years from now, fucking, like, I don't know, Doflamingo was drinking with Chopper or something like that. Like, we're both... Chopper. We're both from the same era. You know, I once fought your captain, and we both wanted to become king of the pirates. But, oh man, the times sure have changed. You want to have a drink? Like, Chopper's just like, sure, Doflamingo, let's have a drink. I just don't know if it works like that, you know? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Shiki's not as bad as Doflamingo. That's probably true. But you could swap for a lot of pirates, and I still think it's kind of crazy, you know? Like, Gecko Moria and Chopper, I just don't think that would fly, you know? I don't know. Yeah, it would have to be someone who's willing to drink, like, who Crocus would be willing to drink with, and who would make sense to know Crocus and be interested in drinking with Crocus. Growth Stonks, thanks for the 5. In Wano, Kaido uses a move called Three Realms Ragnarok and a hint to Elbaf having 3 realms. The God's Knights are going to invade and be used to hype Shanks' crew. Hey, I'm fully on board with the God's Knights being used to invade and hyping Shanks' crew. I'm 100% on board with that. I've said I'm on board with that in the past. I'm on board. I'm ready for that, man. I have seen people talk about Kaido's Ragnarok move and the 3 realms foreshadowing. I wonder why Kaido said that shit. Like, why is that part of Kaido's moveset? Because kind of like when Big Mom uses like Elbaf canon, it's because she has a connection there. With Kaido saying 3 realms Ragnarok, is that just a reference to the fact that Kaido, like, is that just Oda's foreshadowing, or is there a Kaido personal connection in there, you know? Akash Panda, thanks for the 5. This is a rare occasion where I'm happy the Elbaf thread didn't take the entire double page. I love having Luffy and Usopp's reaction on that page. I agree. I think that was a really, really good choice by him. I think that was important here. I definitely agree. And I like that their reaction is separate from the rest of the crews. I think that was important. I'm excited for Usopp in this arc. I'm really excited for Usopp in this arc. Let me say one thing. Do people feel like this is... So people mentioned that... this is a random thought, but people talked about how Luffy and Colin is a soft parallel, right? And Zoro and Loki is a soft parallel in introduction. Can I say this? Would you guys agree that Usopp and Roto is a soft parallel in introduction to some degree? Because when we are introduced to Usopp, his whole thing is, like, he introduces, like, we are introduced to Usopp with him pretending to be a, let's see the exact chapter, right? It's Usopp basically lying, right? It's Usopp lying. Let's see what he says. It's chapter, what, 23 or something like that? Captain Usopp enters. Here we go. Yeah, so the Straw Hats roll up. And he's pretending to be a real pirate captain, right? He's pretending to be a real pirate captain. It's Usopp playing at being a pirate captain, right? That's his whole thing. And he lies to the Straw Hat crew and pretends, you know? I am Usopp, head of a huge pirate fleet and ruler of this village. My people and servants heap praises upon their captain's names, the great Captain Usopp. Is that not that different than the idea of Roto being introduced, saying, like, I'm the sun god, I rule over this land, etc., it's all mine? Obviously, Roto is a much worse character and a piece of shit compared to Usopp, but I'm saying, is there not a small similarity there in terms of, like, the roleplay aspect and the roleplay aspect, pretending to be someone you're not, pretending to be, like, a really big deal. And the big parallel is that Usopp is pretending to be a pirate captain to Luffy, whereas Luffy is actually a pirate captain. Roto is pretending to be a sun god to Luffy, whereas Luffy is the actual sun god, right? Is there not a little bit of a parallel there? I'm not, like, I think people might be averse to that because Roto's a piece of shit, again, but it's not about, like, how good the character is or not, right? I'm just saying that is there a small parallel in the introduction? Because, like, Loki's obviously much worse than Zoro, but Loki fucking killed his father. Zoro's not going to go kill his father to eat a devil fruit. But the parallel is simply in the introduction. I don't know. I think that there's something there. No, I don't think it's enough for a video or anything. This is just what do you call? Yeah, Usopp's also a bit of a gag character. And Usopp is referred to as the shame of Elbaf as well. Usopp's kind of the shame of the village, while Roto is referred to as the shame of the village as well. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like nobody in Elbaf likes Roto. Tom says Usopp didn't pretend to be someone else, though. Usopp hyped himself up. Yeah, but I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm just saying that Usopp is claiming to be... I mean, he is saying that he is the head of a huge pirate fleet, etc., right? That's not that different than Roto saying, I'm the sun god, in my opinion. I think that there's potentially a parallel there. I think people just really don't like Roto, so they don't want to talk about that. Yokai Gota says, if that's the parallel, and you can find parallels with every single character in the story. I'm just saying that if we're looking, and we know this is an important arc for Usopp, and we've already noticed that there's, like, the parallels with Zoro and Loki are very blatant. The parallels with Luffy and Colin are very blatant. I just think it's interesting that the story opened with this character Roto for some reason. I think that it's possible that that Oda might be hinting at something. I also can't think of any parallels between Roto and any of the other Straw Hats, but I do think that there is something to be said about the character opening up by being this big liar that nobody else in the island likes. You know, that's something. I'm just throwing it out there. EHB, thanks for the 5. As well as the TCB case, give us a date for the Wano video. It doesn't matter when. The goal is basically next break week. That's my own personal goal because I would like to, once I drop the Wano video, I'm going to take the next week off. So I would like to give myself a bit of a vacation. Tofi2000, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member. for 24 months. New setup looking good, Morj. Do you expect any major plot twist coming to the story? Also, first proper chapter of Elbaf, and we get another hint towards a little theory I'm thinking since the start of Egghead. I think the first exciting chapter of Elbaf was Loki's introduction, personally. I like this chapter a lot, though. I guess this is the first chapter really showcasing the whole arc that we're going to be, like the island civilization that we're going to be running around in. So we get the full setting. We still obviously have not seen Heaven Realm, which I'm very interested in, and I have a video coming out on that on Tuesday. As for the setup, if you like it, you can get it for yourself at the Morj store. All of these posters, you can get them. If you want to get 4 posters, you can get them all together at 50% off. Just hit the link that's pinned at the top of the comments. So you can get, well, right now what we've got going is Elbaf, Zoe, Skypiea, and then if you want to get those 3 and Chandra together, you can get them all for 50% off. All 4 posters. We got another hint towards a little theory you're thinking of since the start of Egghead. All right, I'm interested. Let's see, Tofi. Also, get your Pirate King submission in for the month. Pirate King submissions are open right now. Thanks for the support, as usual, man. Lucky Man, thanks for the 5. The travel posters look kind of monotonous, Morj. Is there a red or yellow poster coming up? So part of it is that we've got yellow over here. We've got red over here. And I think we do have... Not I think. I know we do. Watch out for this next week's... this next week's batch of posters that are coming out for December, because we've got some very different colors. I think you guys will especially like the color scheme that we went with for Marine Ford. Well, I said too much already. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Akash Panda, thanks for the 2. Silhouette equals Louis Arnott stayed too long on Elbaf. Louis Arnott stayed too long on Elbaf. Oh, shit. You think Louis Arnott is here? I'm gonna be fucking pissed if this Silhouette dude is Louis Arnott. Like... it's cool as a world building thing that there's this explorer going around documenting shit, but listen, man, I didn't ever want to meet this explorer. I'm not like, you know who I really want to see? Louis or not. You know? Monte, thanks for the 5. Kaido being mentioned reminds me that Yuruj also has a guy with a Casa hat on his crew. Chapter 795 when Kaido jumps. Yuruj bros don't give up hope. What? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Let's see. Okay, he's got a guy with a Casa hat, but not really a significant guy. Also, now that I'm looking at Yuruj in chapter 795, I didn't even realize, because he's so huge, but and these women are in comparison to him, but surrounding him are there's 3 women on his crew surrounding him, all somewhat scantily clad. And knowing that Yuruj's biggest hobby is lovemaking, I just think that's kind of funny. I'm like, I have a feeling that these women are not like. I have a feeling I know why they were selected to his crew. That's all I'll say. Yuruj sweep. Louis Arnott is Scopper's pen name, says Akash Panda. That would be cool. But here's the thing. So this might just be a me thing, but I would prefer... I like the idea of Louis... I don't need this Louis Arnott guy to be a special character at the end of the day. Like, I don't need him to be some sort of, like, a big reveal, like we get to meet Louis Arnott or something like that. Simply because... I like that more so as just kind of an aspect that makes the One Piece world feel more alive. Like, there are travel books, you know, that are popular in the One Piece world, right? That are just written by other travelers, right? Other characters who are explorers in the One Piece world from the past. And they're well-known books that are written by just individuals that we're never going to meet. It's just like a nice little soft connecting thread that, like, oh, we... heard about this character. Oh, we're hearing a little bit more about like one of his travel notations or something. But I don't really need to meet the guy. It makes the world to me feel a little smaller if every single, you know, little name that we hear actually just turns out to be like, oh, this is a member of Roger's crew or something like that. You know what I mean? So I'm actually cool with it without it. I wouldn't be upset. It's just I'm okay with it at the moment. With it just being, you know, a little thing that's dropped in a book. Just a random author, you know? Not a Pro 64. Thanks for the 10. I'm interested in the character Louis Arnott. Only One Piece character to have a birthday but no design. Vegapunk 2 before Egghead. And lots of interesting stuff about his book, Bragman, on the fandom wiki. Okay, so let's see. Is Louis Arnott's birthday the same as Scopper Gavan? December 20th. Uh-oh, December 20th. Is Oda trying to debut this character on the same day as uh as the chapter on the same day as his birthday? Scopper Gaban birthday. I guess we don't know Scopper Gaban's birthday. Scopper Gaban, could Scopper I just don't know. Louis Arnott? I don't know. Let me throw it to you guys. You guys think it's Louis Arnott himself? Aliato5, thanks for the 10. I think Luffy will have to reflect on Yonko duties this arc. Things like his fleet causing trouble, the arc is in Shanks' territory, call in Luffy parallels, Blackbeard targeting Wano plus Fishman Island soon, etc. I like the idea of that for sure, because this is the first arc that Luffy... Like, last arc, Luffy was a Yonko, but he didn't have to do anything Yonko related, other than kind of just, like, prove he's a Yonko in the like last arc was kind of proving Luffy's a Yonko because like the world government threw a lot of shit at him and he just like they fought through it, as well as like characters doubting him as a Yonko. Like Bonnie initially doubted he was a Yonko, Lucci doubted he's a Yonko. By the end I think it was pretty definitive. This arc actually acting as a Yonko, that would be interesting. I still think that the Shanks Bartholomew situation has to be significant and lead to something, because Oda is very tight with his panel space. Like he doesn't really, if he's cutting away to outside events, it's always to set up for something. Like we know that this Blackbeard blockade situation is going to lead to something. There's no reason for him to write these things if it's pointless, right? Let me throw it to you guys. Could the silhouette be Louis or not? Yes. No. Louis is Scopper. I'm going to be disappointed if it's Louis or not. I'll just say that right now. Shogun says Arnott was on Little Garden 100 years ago. Okay. Yeah, but you know, the One Piece world has shenanigans and shit. Oh my god, it's like almost a 50%. Yes, it's Louis Arnott. Okay. No, it's almost 40%. A lot of people think it could fucking be Louis Arnott. I'm going to be upset. Sheriff Laffy, thanks for the 10. What are your thoughts on new characters at this stage? I personally don't mind. I feel like just giving a new character that scholar role over Saul would have worked just fine for me, for example. New characters or new Straw Hats? New characters, you're saying, right? I personally... I'm at a place where... Here's my thing with One Piece. I'm at a place where I personally feel like I'm on board with new characters, but only so long as like each... I would like every new character introduced to be a character that has some substance for the story, not just more characters for the sake of more characters, you know? And I really do think that it's something that has been more so the case like since post time skip, because there just is a marked difference. Because you go back to fucking Fishman Island, and like you've got 3 Neptune brothers when only one of them really is a character that matters, right? Like Fukaboshi is the character that matters. Most people don't fucking remember the names of the other 2. They just remember that they dance. Some people probably don't remember that they dance. Neptune has 2 ministers, the minister of the left and the minister of the right. One of the 2 ministers has a crush or romantic interest in Shirahoshi or something, and that's like a minor plot point, but that doesn't go anywhere and like is one of his primary motivations, but it's just so shallow and so poorly focused on. It's just like you didn't need 2 ministers, right? There's a lot of that. Like that's just the starting trend of One Piece post time skip, which is there's a lot of fucking characters that don't need to exist. They do arguably like flesh out the world and make it feel more vivid. Like there's 3 princes and they all dance. Like I think Oda liked the idea of 3 dancing princes a lot, and so he included them. But at the end of the day, as you stack more and more and more characters that a lot of them are just shallow inclusions into the story, it's just diminishing returns, and you get less focus on the pieces that really, really matter, and the story's kind of bloated with a lot of overstuffed stuff that people just don't really give that much of a shit about. Again, I feel like Wano is the ultimate example of this. I feel like where I'm at in Elbaf is I really don't mind if the story has a lot of characters, as long as all of those characters fucking matter in some way. Like, You can include like random giants like Stanson or some shit like that, but as long as the ones that we're actually focusing on and are getting screen time or whatever are ones that Oda has some sort of significant story for, character like narrative purpose for, plot for, like as long as each character is adding to the story of the arc, I don't mind new characters. Like I'm not upset that we have Loki. Like Loki, I'm just like, this is awesome. It seems like this character has a lot going for him that's going to be important to the storyline. I know a lot of people don't like Roto, but I'm like, I wonder if this character is supposed to be important for the storyline in some way. Let's see. At the moment, I'm just like, don't need to see any more of him, though. Colin, random new kid. I'm just like, okay, if this character and Luffy have an important dynamic in some way that goes to the theme of the arc and can bring out something important for Colin, a la like a Momonosuke or a Bonnie or something like that, I'm on board with this character, right? I just don't want to see more and more characters added in just for the sake of more and more characters added in. Like, as long as it's remaining quality over quantity with the choices Oda's making with the characters that he adds in, I'm happy to see new characters. Like, you know, that's just where I'm at. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Tom says, don't worry, Morj. I added all 3 Neptune brothers to the island character tier list. Right. That's actually going to be a fun tier list. Maybe we do that soon. Maybe we do that soon. New X7, thanks for the 2. Still angry Carrot didn't join in Lilith's place. I'm sorry about that, New X7. I know Carrot supporters are going to be a little bit upset about the way things turned out. I thought Carrot was a good inclusion for Whole Cake, though. But then in Wano, for example, Carrot didn't really have anything to do, so Carrot kind of just became a character that was like an extra character that was included. Like, the whole scene with Carrot versus Perospero and like her being upset about Perospero is just like, we could have just taken that out from the arc and nothing changes, right? So it's kind of like the character is superfluous to the events of the arc. Like, screen time is being given to the character for no real reason at a certain point, right? Sorry. Hold on. Okay. Sorry. Had to note some stuff down. Okay. New X7 says that might be difficult because Oda has said that creating new characters is his favorite thing to do in One Piece. Yeah. I mean, it's just the way it is. I don't know. Gosh, Panda says, I miss the mustache, Mr. Morj. Look, we're past the mustache era. You will at some point see me with a beard again, because, I mean, I've already got a soft thing growing, and I do grow facial hair pretty quickly. But this is the way it's going to be for the near future, all right? We're done with looking homeless, all right? We're going to go through a bit of an arc where we don't look homeless, all right? And then we're going to go back to looking homeless. But the hair is back to looking presentable for the most part. Don't look... not just rocking a plain mustache or whatever. We're looking like normal members of society for the near future. Yeah, guys, Tom is preparing a tier list, which is for island side characters, which we will do at some point soon. So if people want to check out his Twitter and just see if there's any characters that he's missing. But we probably will do an island tier list. I don't think this month, though, because I think this month we will probably be, like, this is the month of December, so I think we'll be doing a lot of streams, like Monday streams that are year in review type streams. So chapter of the year, 2024, like, character awards, like MVPs, etc. Manga of the year, probably, maybe a chat votes top 30 at the end of all this, you know? Lock TM says more. Does Wano flow better reading it back to back as opposed to weekly? I felt it was the same. I felt weekly felt slower, but reading it all back to back felt more jarring. Because so it was not the same. Because reading it weekly, it felt slower. Like there was a lot of weeks, particularly in Onigashima, where it just felt like nothing really happened. Oda's just moving pieces around because there's so many pieces that he set up, even though only only a handful of the pieces were actually important or interesting. But in terms of reading it full back to back, when you're reading it weekly, there's so many random things that happen earlier in the story that you just forget about. But reading it all in one go, it's just jarring how many times it's like, okay, so this is a thing that's happening. This is a little plot line. Okay, wait, never mind. I guess it's not happening. I guess it doesn't matter. Like it's constant. Especially in Onigashima, you can really feel, like as you read through the battle, you can really feel while reading through Onigashima how often Oda was just like, okay, we don't have time for this. But I set it up, but we don't have time for this. It's just like one chapter. It's like almost schizophrenic. It's just like, I'm not saying Oda's schizophrenic. I'm like, no whatsoever there, right? I'm saying more so like the feeling of reading it feels like it's all over the place, where it's just like Apu is doing bad stuff, and then Drake's fighting Apu, and then Zoro takes out Apu, and it's like, okay, so Apu's done for, right? Like, we handled the Isoni situation, but then Apu's back up. But then Drake comes in, and Drake's like, I'm going to handle Apu now. And it's like, oh, shit, Drake's handling Apu, because Drake betrayed the Beast Pirates, all right? So Drake's handling Apu, so that's the thing going on. And then we cut back over to Apu and Drake, and Apu's like, Drake, let's make an alliance. And now, next time we catch back up with Apu and Drake, they're, like, talking about this alliance. And then right after that, like, Yamato runs through, and she says hi to Apu and Drake. And it's like, okay, don't know why Yamato's here talking to Apu and Drake, but I guess this was important. But there's nothing important that's actually exchanged there. And then we cut back to, and then Yamato's gone. And then we cut back to Apu and Drake, and they're fighting CP0, and then they're both defeated. And then it's just like, what if we just cut all of that from the story? What would change? What would change is that it's a smoother reading experience where, like, time is not randomly taken up by a thing that's just, it's pointless. Like you can call it, like, abandoned plot thread, but it's also just, like, abandoned character. Like, why bring these characters back? Why create this plot thread? Why, like, try and create this character dynamic? What is this? Does it say anything thematically? Does it, like, what is it adding to the story? Does it add anything in terms of, like, narrative? Like, does it change the tone? Does it add tension? Does it, like, what is it doing for the story? It's doing nothing. But it just exists. And then if you read all of Onigashima together, it's just back to back to back. Like, it's like trying to find the plot lines and storylines and character moments that actually matter and are interesting is like trying to find needles in, like, a haystack, basically. I don't know, man. That's just one example. Yokai Gota says, Paulie took valuable screen time away from Chopper. So here's the thing, because I actually talk about it in the Wano video. Which is that one thing that Oda did brilliantly in Water 7 Enies Lobby. This was such a smooth choice of events, because in Water 7 Enies Lobby, he only really, like, Paulie was the primary shipwright that was focused on. We did bring the other two along, but it was really Paulie, right? And then same with the Frankie family, it was mainly the main guy Zambia that was focused on, right? And then the other Frankie family members were along, but not much time or screen time was spent on them. They just existed, right? And it did feel good because we'd been focusing on these characters enough that when everybody united together to try and get to Enies Lobby, it felt good. And he gave his time and space to those characters, getting through the Sea Train journey, fighting Oimo and Kashi and everything like that, and knocking creating the ramp for the rocket train to travel for the Straw Hats to get across over to the other side, right? So he did all that with them, and then Paulie, Zambia, Frankie family, etc., they go away. They're gone. All right? They're gone for the rest of Enies Lobby. We cut to them a couple times just to show their experience as the Buster Call begins and them kind of figuring out their escape route or whatever. But that's it. The rest of Enies Lobby, once the Strahds cross over to the Tower of Justice or whatever, from there on, it's a straight shot. Every single chapter is interesting. Every single chapter is interesting because every single chapter is cutting to a very dramatic Straw Hat fight. Like a very dramatic scenario for each of the Straw Hats. It's high tension because the Straw Hats each struggle significantly in their fight, and they've got this continuous ticking time bomb going down of Robin getting further and further away with them struggling to get the keys. Like, it's very, very urgent. The urgency is high. Then the Buster Call gets added in on top of that. Like, the urgency is very high, and every scene that we're cutting between is an interesting scene. It's not like we're waiting 20 chapters to get to the next fight or something like that, right? Onigashima, I can tell you right now, the first, like, chapter 1000 to 1010, it's the roof piece, but it's not really just roof piece, because it's a few chapters of roof piece, and then a lot of cutting down below to the Scabbards crying about shit, running into the fake Odin, a lot of setup for random other bullshit, Ice Oni bullshit, stuff like that, okay? And in between, we're cutting back to roof piece. Then the next 10 chapters, it's like, after, like, Luffy kind of loses once to Kaido first, and then we're cutting around to, like, more just random setup or whatever, and then we get 3 chapters of Straw Hat fights, which are very quick. We get Robin versus Black Maria, Frankie versus Sasaki, which is one fight, Jinbei versus Husu, which is one chapter. These are one chapter each, right? Enies Lobby, we would get, like, 20 straight chapters of just cutting between Straw Hat fights, Straw Hat fights, Straw Hat fights, basically, right? And then the next, like, 1020 of Wano to, like, 1030 or something is, again, more setup, because, like, now Luffy's got to get back, Zoro and Sanji's and Kid and Law's fights have to be set up or whatever. Then 1030, like, there's a few chapters of kind of some just continuous setup, and then, like, 1033 to 1040, then we're getting, like, the Zoro Sanji fights, Kid and Law fights, right? And then finally we're getting to Luffy versus Kaido. But, like, 50% of the Onigashima battle, I'd say almost more than that, is not actual, like, from 1000 to 1040, 1000 to 1050, where the fight ends, right? Like, I'd say a solid 30 chapters of that is just pieces being put in place or things being moved around and not much really happening. Or random storylines like Yamato trying to stop this fire thing that's going down, or like the Kid Apu bullshit, or Ice Oni stuff, or like there's just so much shit in there, right? Because there's too many characters, and Oda wanted them all there. Enies Lobby, it's just a straight shot. Like, the entire final section from chapter 400 onwards, once they cross the bridge, to 430, or 427, when everything, I guess 430 is where you could really say it wraps. Like 400, 430, it's just 30 straight chapters of very tight, very focused storytelling on the primary cast of characters and what they're going through and each overcoming their challenges. It's very, very tight. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's all I can say with, like, reading Wano weekly. It's like you're just reading it weekly, it feels slow, and then you get to some really hype points, and there are very hype points. That's definitely true. There are some very hype points, but it's very slow for a long time, and then you get to, like, some hype chapters, a couple hype chapters in a row, and then it's back to setting up more stuff, right? Or taking care of shit that no one really gives a shit about. Okay, whereas reading it all together, it's a continuous reminder of, like, how much stuff just gets cut from the story because it's taking too long. And it's like, well, if he just made those cuts initially, then maybe it would be a lot smoother. Eric says, hey, what's up, man? It's clear Oda has big plans for Usopp. I'm very excited for Usopp this arc. Oh, Newx7, sorry I missed this. Thanks for the 5. 2 things Dandadan more peak with each chapter/episode. MGS was voted greatest PS game of all time, Metal Gear Solid. Even if you don't play it, encourage watching the story. I've said this before, but Metal Gear Solid, from my understanding, it's a stealth game. Stealth games can never be good games, because stealth is the most boring thing you can possibly do in a game. That's just factually true. Because stealth is just it's like the opposite of, like, you know, Newx7 also, thanks for the 2. Still angry, carrot, enjoy. Oh, no, we covered this. Okay. yeah, all I could say is basically no one likes doing stealth in video games, right? You know how many times I dropped the Wind Waker when I was a kid because I started playing it and then I get dropped at the Forsaken Fortress and it tells me to do stealth shit for a little bit. But it takes away my sword, and so I have to crawl and hide for a long time before I get my sword back. And I'm like, how would you introduce the game like this? Why would you introduce the game with stealth? Stealth sucks, right? It's the It would be like it's the worst thing in the game in games besides escort missions, right? So I don't agree with Metal Gear Solid being voted the greatest PlayStation game of all time. I don't even play that many games, but I can tell you that much. Good games have action. That's what I know. Don't know much about video games, but I know that it requires action. Because if I wanted to pretend to do stealth, I could do that in real life, you know? Like, I could go run and hide and creep through corridors and shit like that in real life. I can play hide and seek in real life. What I can't do is, like, kill things, you know? That's what you go to video games for, to kill things, to fight things, you know? If you do that in real life, you get put in prison. So, stealth, I just don't agree with it as a concept. As for Dandadan, I'm now, like, because my girlfriend and I started Dandadan, actually. So I watched the first episode a while back, okay? So I watched the first episode of Dandadan some time back because it was really hyped up. When I watched the first episode, stylistically, fucking awesome, right? But it had that really, really fucking weird, like, I was watching it, I was just like, I don't know about this show, about this series, because it had just, like, it has that scene. It has the whole scene where, like, the aliens have tied up the girl, and they're, like, because she's a virgin, they're gonna, like, do what? Take her bananas or whatever? Like, it's just a really, really... To me, I was just like, this is it. This is, like, the reason that people make fun of Japanese anime, right? Like, this is what, like... Even though Japanese anime has come a long way in terms of being accepted in Western culture, and, like, it's come a long way from people making fun of anime back, you know, like, a lot, like, 10, 15 years ago. This is a reminder, like, that scene to me was a reminder that, you know what? People were right, like, to make fun of anime for a long time. Because it has shit like this. It just does. It has bizarre, weird shit like this. And I just got a reminder. I was like, oh yeah, people weren't just making fun of anime for no reason. Anime deserved to be made fun of in many ways because there's shit that you see in anime that was just like, there's just shit that like normal people would not be watching, right? So it just was a reminder. I was like, okay, so I don't understand. Why is Dandadan such like a revolutionary news story or whatever when like this is the stuff that we're getting in the first episode? This is just like, this is pretty, like I actually can't think of another series that goes that far. Like, people talk about, like, Undead Unluck being cringe with its, like, pervy stuff early on or whatever, but I'm like, this scene right here is, like, one of the most uncomfortable anime scenes that I've seen, right? So I watched the first episode. I believed that Dandadan was a very good story because everybody said it's phenomenal, right? But after watching the first episode, I felt no incentive in watching it further because I was like, I don't know about this, and I definitely did not want to watch it with my girlfriend because I was just like, this gives such a bad look to anime. All right. Yesterday, she specifically wanted to watch it because it's pretty high up on Netflix's most viewed, right? Like top 10 or whatever. So then I was pretty uncertain about it. I gave her fair warning for the first episode, what was going to happen. And so we got through the first episode and then we watched 2 more. And so far, I'm enjoying it. I think I'm enjoying it so far largely for the style, like the visual style and how it's done because it's really, really fun to watch. I enjoy the main character's dynamic so far. Okarun is still growing on me. The girl, I think, is, I prefer her as the main character. And I understand that it gets really good. So I'm trusting that it gets really good. I think so far the story is nothing exceptional, but, the style is really visually cool. And next episode, they're going after the Turbo Granny, which isn't like, what do you call? A big spoiler or anything like that. We're only 4 episodes in. Okay. Kirby and Hales Jotar says, no one likes forced stealth in a non-stealth game. I would just never sign up to play a stealth game. I would just never buy a stealth game. Because it's just like, why? Why? Like, my idea of fun is just not, like, hiding. You know? That's just not, it's just, why hide? You know? Why would you buy a video game to hide? Like, people buy games to play out, like, you know, you want to go, like some sort of fun fantasy or whatever. It's like, is your fun fantasy, like, hiding from people? I don't get it. If somebody wanted to explain the fun of stealth to me, I'd be very interested, but I don't get it. Feathers McGraw says, please stop talking about games. I just want to get to the psychology behind it. I'm like, you can play hide and seek in real life if this is what it does. That's just Fading Fist is the worst video game take I've ever heard. I swear, I don't think stealth is good. Why is stealth good? Not a Pro 64. Thanks a lot. You need to play Hitman 3. Do I have to hide in it? Tom, thanks a lot. Morj introducing Scopper late could actually be genius power scaling wise. If he's younger than Rayleigh, he would be close to his prime and stronger than current Rayleigh. I don't know if Scopper's like... If he's younger than Rayleigh, that would probably be true. But I don't know if we're supposed to be introduced to like a super strong top tier at this moment in time, you know? New X7 says, Morj, well, Metal Gear Solid does have action and violence. It's just highly discouraged because it makes the mission more difficult and tells you you're a horrible person for getting off on murdering people. I think I've shared my experience with Metal Gear Solid before, okay? I've only played Metal Gear Solid once. I believe it was the third Metal Gear Solid or something like that. It was, maybe not, hold on. Metal Gear Solid 3. Maybe it was for the PS3 or something like that. I played something for, no. So I played for the, it was PlayStation 3, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so maybe it was the fourth one or something. I don't know. I played a Metal Gear Solid, okay? But I played it at a friend's place, okay? So I was over at his house for a sleepover, all right? This was not actually a friend. This was, how do I explain? This was like a family friend who was the same age as me, so I was kind of obligated to go hang out, do stuff, basically, right? So I was at his place for a sleepover. This guy, obsessed with video games, all right? Obsessed with video games. He has Metal Gear Solid, like, he wants to play this game, all right? So the sleepover is basically, we're gonna stay up all night playing Metal Gear Solid, all right? And I don't get to play that often, I'll say that. Partly because I wasn't good enough to complete a lot of the missions, but like, or a lot of the whatever tasks, you know, like levels or whatever the fuck. Part of it because of that, but then also because like he clearly just wanted to play more than me. And so it became like I'm mostly just watching him play, waiting for the night to end, all right? So that's what it was like, all right? And my distinct memory was basically like we're playing, or like anytime I get the controller or whatever, he's explaining to me like what I got to do, etc. And it was just dumb because it was like you have to get from point A to point B or whatever, and you have to go through all these corridors, and it was kind of like hiding, waiting, and I'd be asking like, am I allowed to fight this guy or kill this guy or something like that? And it was always like a gray area. It was like you can kind of, but then usually as soon as I tried to kill one or two people, then things would really go south for me. So I couldn't just like tear through a bunch of shit. So it was just not fun. It was just like, okay, I'm trying to do this. Okay, I'm getting tired of this. Can I just try and kill this person? Yes. If I kill this person, then some other stuff usually bad happens or whatever. Maybe I can get away. And then like, it was not fun. There was no point in it when I was having fun. I was just like, I'm supposed to be hiding. Sort of. It's basically what the game is. And I'm just like, what if they made a game where you just actually fight and tear through all these guys? And it's like, oh, wait, yeah, those are some better games that actually exist. But then they made this game where it's like, you can do fun things, kinda, but then you're not supposed to do fun things most of the time. And you're essentially rewarded for not having fun, is basically what that game is. And you're allowed to have fun occasionally. You know? Can somebody... Shogun says, I think this is more to do with the sleepover. That's true, because I did not like hanging out with him. But part of it is because I knew what it was going to be going in, which is that we were going to play some video game that he really liked for the entire time. And then, lo and behold, that's what we did. And it was not a video game that I had fun playing. Double R Ali says you can kill them stealthily. Okay, well, I wasn't good enough to do that. I could kill like 1 or 2 people, and I just remember shit would, like, I don't remember the details because it was so long ago, but it would not be good to try and kill too many people. Either I would get killed, maybe that's on me, I'm bad, but like, it was not, like, it felt like I was supposed to hide more than kill, is what I felt. And I was like, being able to kill is more fun, you know? TomTom says, Morj, stealth is fun if you like puzzles. It's about problem solving and maximizing and utilizing limited resources. I see, but puzzles that I personally enjoy involve puzzle solving, like in more active time, I suppose. Like, the stealth stuff is a lot of waiting. You have to wait a lot to solve the puzzles, right? The puzzle is finding out how long you're supposed to wait. Am I correct or incorrect about that? Puzzle is finding out how long you're supposed to wait before you're allowed to move, and then you have to figure out how long you're supposed to wait again before you're allowed to move again, right? So if the problem solving is figuring out how long to not have fun each time before you're allowed to have fun and move around and do stuff, I don't enjoy that. I'll say that. I do believe that the cutscene's really cool, because we did have cool cutscenes. Shogun says, what about the Arkham games? I've only played the Arkham games at friends' places a couple times. I do enjoy that you could just like go in as Batman and beat up characters, basically. You can like really beat up a crowd. So I did think that was fun. TomTom says, not every stealth game / section. I do believe that. Keep in mind, let me be very clear, I know the Metal games are widely praised. I know that they're beloved. I'm sure that they are actually good games. This is just me giving my very biased takes and experiences on it. But I will maintain that stealth is not a fun part of games. Or it's the least fun part. James Ross says the word fun is subjective. I suppose that's true. There are people who just enjoy waiting for like 30 seconds or whatever. I'm not one of those people. Long TM says stealth is also about battlefield control. Yeah, but so is just charging into the battlefield and fucking people up, you know? Like, isn't that also battlefield control? Just controlling the battlefield directly, where stealth is controlling it by figuring out how long to hide from the battlefield, you know? KGM78, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 26 months. I haven't played Metal Gear Solid, but games like Splinter Cell and Dishonored give you lots of tools and big levels, so the pace of the game is in your control. I don't know about those games. Okay. I'll call a truce on the stealth take. No, I won't. The truce is off. I still don't like it. I maybe have to play a good stealth game. Here's the thing. From the games I've played, the closest I've played to like a stealth game is just Sekiro. And Sekiro is not really a stealth game. It's like a combat game where they had to include stealth because otherwise it's just fighting all the time and then it's boring, right? Not boring, but it's just, I personally feel like you like having stuff to break up the fight after fight after fight is good, you know? So in that case, like, Sekiro had stealth. But I preferred, you know, the other Souls games approach to, like, in between combat, you're solving the level, right? And, like, there's more, I feel like that puzzle solving aspect of it was more interesting to me, but I understand Sekiro can't be like a perfect game, so they spent so much time on the combat that what they put in between to flesh out the rest of the game was stealth. I didn't dislike the stealth, I just knew that it was my least favorite thing to be doing in that game. Now, that being said, Sekiro is not a good stealth game from what I've heard, you know? NewX7, thanks for the 5. Understand not liking stealth, also like it for a time. You can still engage in violence, it's just discouraged you to making the mission harder. And Rising Doom says Morj is a Dynasty Warrior. No, because I don't like games that's all action either. My ideal game, I think, is this. I think my ideal game... Okay. I actually do like... I like a mix of things, okay? I don't just like combat and fighting bosses and stuff like that. I really don't, okay? I just don't like games that are skewed towards stealth. What my ideal game is honestly something like... If you had a traditional Zelda game... Like, it would basically be a Zelda game, but with, like, let's say Sekiro's combat or something like that. Does that make sense? That would, Sekiro's combat, Souls-type bosses. That would be my ideal type game. I like a game where you can do, like, a little bit of everything, where there's puzzle solving. Sometimes you could throw in some stealth sections or something like that. I like going through dungeons and everything. I like a world where you have lots of side quests and characters and stuff like that. I like a bit of story. I don't like story being too... I don't know. I actually don't think I've played a very strong story game, so I'm going to hold off on that or whatever. But I do like story to whatever degree. Yeah, I think I like a little bit of everything. I think I like a little bit of everything. With combat and good bosses being a very important part. But yeah, if I were to make my ideal game, I think would be something like Ocarina of Time with updated gameplay to make everything, more modern, right? Bigger world, Sekiro combat somehow, Souls bosses, right? And yeah, that's it. That's probably my ideal game. My ideal game is some combination of but maybe that's just because that's all I really have played. But maybe I only play those games because that's the type of games I enjoy. Like, I tried playing God of War, did not enjoy it. Did not enjoy playing the new God of War. NewX7 thanks for the 5, saying you're a bad person for your fantasy being killing people. But, hold on. You can still engage in it. It's just discouraged you to making mission harder and saying you're a bad person for your fantasy being killing people. But Metal Gear Solid shines in story and cast. It's incredibly philosophical and emotional. Interesting. I did not know about that. I don't think I usually get into games for story. That's not my thing. But I've also never played a full, powerful story game from start to finish. God of War, I was starting to sink my teeth into what the story, into enjoying the character dynamic or, trying to get on board with the whole father-son shtick in there. I was getting there. I don't think I ever really got far. I think the gameplay was just too boring for me past a certain point. Too repetitive for me past a certain point for me to really want to stick with it. Omar Garcia, thanks for the 10. I think some horror games apply stealth well. Horror games are different. Because, what you're really signing up for is just the scare part of it. And so stealth is, you're trying... that's the part. The fear is what's important. So, in that case, yeah... I think stealth has a different purpose, right? Outlast 1 and Alien Isolation come to mind. In these two games, stealth brings higher immersion and tension. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But if it's more so a game where you're supposed to, fuck up characters, but only and, succeed in missions and stuff, I don't enjoy stealth as much. LogTM says, you're describing Ghost of Tsushima exactly. I need to play Ghost of Tsushima. I do need to play that. I know it's on PC now. LogTM says Ghost of Tsushima is basically Zelda with a Souls-like combat system with stealth mechanics if you want them. Yeah, I'm on board with that. That's a game I would want to play. That sounds good. Literally Ghost of Tsushima? Okay, shit. So I just got to play that game then. I'll be playing that. Fading Phase, thanks for the 5. About stealth, in real life you can't hide from monsters, soldiers, hitmen, etc. It's the feeling of vulnerability and helplessness that makes stealth fun for me. That's true. That is very true. You're right. That is true. Oh, Ender Anami says not beating the movie game, solid allegations with that. I don't like games that are just movies. Because then I could just watch a movie, Ender Anami saying God of Movies PS4. TomTom saying Ghost of Tsushima would be perfect for you. Great combat, great stealth if you choose to do it. Side quests and activities, amazing story and characters, great set pieces. I'm going to play that. That's on my list. If I were to tell you right now my list of... Because I don't have a long list of games that I want to play. Here's my list. You guys tell me right now what's right and not right. Okay? My list right now is basically... I want to play Elden Ring next. I think I'm going to play Elden Ring once the year starts. Alright? I want to play Black Myth Wukong. Because it sounds like kind of a faster game. And just like a fun, lighter game. That doesn't require too much immersion or time. Not much. It's just fighting bosses back to back or whatever for the most part. I want to play Black Myth Wukong. I'll play that once the DLC comes out. I want to play Baldur's Gate, even though a lot of y'all have told me not to play Baldur's Gate. I want to play it just to find out. I want to play Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, those are the main games that I guess are lined up that I would like to really play next. And games take a lot of time to finish, So, I imagine Elden Ring alone would take me months. So, it's not like I'm going to tear through these back to back to back really fast. But those are the games that I've kind of want to play next. And then beyond that, I've wanted to play The Witcher 3, but I just don't know if that's going to be for me. I wanted to play Witcher 3. New X7 says, Morj, happy you said you never played a game with an engaging story. Let me just say that Metal Gear Solid 2 has what many in the gaming community call the most profound moment in gaming history. Shit, should I just... I'm never going to play the game. Not because... Okay, let me clarify, by the way. I don't like shooters because I just don't have the good... what do you call... I never grew up playing shooters. I never wanted to play shooters when I went to friends' places. And so then, like, in later years or whatever, I've never really wanted to play shooter games because it's, like, a thing that I never... Like, it's a gaming skill, I guess you could say, that I never personally got good at. And so it's just... I just have a bit of, like, a mental aversion to wanting to play shooters. I don't know why. It's stupid, but it's the way that I am, okay? So I've never wanted to play shooters. I've always preferred, basically, like, a game where I have a sword or something like that in my hand. So the main reason I'm probably never going to play Metal Gear Solid is not even the stealth aspect. It's the fact that, like, I'm not a shooter person. So with that in mind, I might just... Maybe I should just watch... Should I just watch, like, a video on Metal Gear Solid 2 and find out what it's about? What do people think is going to win Game of the Year? I think video games are in a funny spot because, like, it's the way it kind of goes with all of these awards, right? Like, Emmys, Oscars, Grammys, shit like that. Like, these things have a lot of prestige early on. And then as time goes on, and, like, especially when the industry is getting big, and then as time goes on and, like, people begin to realize more, like... people begin to disagree more and more with the choices, or people begin to see, like, the, like, shitty reasons that certain things are picked over other things. Like, most people who are actual, like, cinephiles or into movies or whatever don't place any weight on Oscars whatsoever. Like, you'll never hear, like, an actual film fan or anything like that mention something like, oh, this won Best Picture. It's like, dude, like, the most generic shit ever tends to win Best Picture, right? Generally, as an industry grows and time goes on, like, people place less and less weight on that sort of thing, right? Like, nobody's gonna mention, like, when people talk about the best TV shows of all time, people bring up, like, Better Call Saul, even though it's never won, like, best Emmy or whatever, because generally, as the industry grows, people tend to place less and less weight on the awards because awards shows, people begin to realize, are just awards shows that are voted on people in the industry who often don't appreciate certain things, right? And there's a lot of, like, internal industry politics that goes into what does or doesn't win. Like, in fact, it's mainly determined by internal industry politics, right? Gaming's an interesting spot because, like, Game of the Year is this fresh new thing, and I think generally speaking, whatever's won Game of the Year for the most part so far has been stuff that people respect and appreciate generally. I think, like, the only really controversial pick was, like, Last of Us or whatever, from what I recall. So because of that, Game of the Year still holds a lot of prestige, but over time, that's going to slowly go away. It just will, as, like, the way people discuss... Like, right now, people are placing a lot of value on it because the awards are new, right? The awards have a recent, like... They're a big thing recently, and it feels like it has been generally consistent in picking what many would call the best game of the year, right? It's just going to be like, as time goes on, people will stop respecting Game of the Year as much because that's just what happens in most industries as the sort of thing goes on. Because as soon as there begins to be more of a divergence between what's being considered Game of the Year versus, like, what everybody else actually thinks is the best, that's when stuff like Game of the Year, these sort of awards... Emmys, Grammys, Oscars, etc., begin to lose a lot of value. Like, if you go through what most greatest movies of all time are considered, the vast majority of them are not Best Picture winners. It's actually much more rare to find, like, a movie that's considered a great movie that's also a Best Picture winner or something like that, right? Like fucking Citizen Kane, which many believe to be the greatest movie of all time, didn't even win Best Movie of the Year, right? Vertigo, 2001: A Space Odyssey, not even nominated for Best Picture. Like, that's just the way things go. So right now it's just funny because, like, gaming's in this state where it's like, oh, we're like a serious industry now, like a serious artistic thing now, and then this is our award, Game of the Year. Like, this is what we used to, like, this is the most prestigious thing that can be won. And very soon, I'd say in the next 10 years, Game of the Year will probably not have much value. Warvo says it's already starting to fade away, especially now that DLCs are getting nominated for Game of the Year. I mean, I haven't played Shadow of the Erdtree, so I don't know, like, is that, like, really... Wasn't there, like, a Witcher DLC that won something or something like that? Am I crazy? Wasn't there, like, a Witcher DLC that won? Sorry, hold on. Brian Meets World, thanks for the 2. Armored Core 6 is for FromSoft as well, and Lies of P. Yeah, but that's like, for Armored Core is like a shooter, right? Lies of P, maybe I'll try. But I know it's not, yeah, I know it's not FromSoft. Tom says, Morj, check my stream ID on Twitter. We could do it with video games as well. I haven't played enough games to do a gamer tier list. I am a level 1 gamer. I'm a level 1 gamer who's spouting off lots of opinions on games based off of almost nothing. So just consider that. Like, how big is Shadow of the Erdtree? Is it the same size as would it be considered like similar in size to like a full game? I'm biased because I obviously like FromSoft games a lot, so I'm never gonna be like I'm in my mind. I'm like, oh, it'd be cool if like Elden Ring won again, but obviously I understand that like there's a world of games that are also very, very good that it'd kind of be pretty shitty for Elden Ring to win again for a DLC, you know? Tom says the stream idea isn't a tier list. Interesting. Sid P, thanks for the 5. He has been hiding for 2 years. The raid fail has completely ruined him. More, did you succumb to alcoholism? You look worse for... What the fuck? That's... What the fuck? I think I'm looking good today. What the hell? Shadow of the Erdtree is huge, but it's a DLC, and it's taken away from Wukong, which is a huge achievement. But I've heard that Wukong has, like, issues as well. I don't know. It's about as big as Dark Souls 3. I think Dark Souls 3 should have won Game of the Year for whatever year that it came out. Wukong is... I heard that it's mainly just a boss rush type game. I don't know. I've heard bad things about Dragon Age. Shogun says Erdtree is good enough, but it's still a DLC. Yeah, I guess I just don't have an opinion. Warvo says you could do a Zelda tier list, though. Still planning to finish Tears of the Kingdom, BTW? I should finish Tears of the Kingdom, man. I should finish Tears of the Kingdom. Zelda tier list, here's the thing. I've only played the 2D games, so I don't really have a... I've only played the 2D games. I'm probably realistically never going to finish... I'm probably realistically never going to finish... never going to play Breath of the Wild, because I hear there's not much point after playing Tears of the Kingdom, you know? Let me see what Tom's telling me on Twitter. Did you message me directly? Just tweeting you an idea. Tom, I'm not seeing it. Can you just, can you message me directly? Sorry about that. Random guy 123, thanks for your first super ever. Thanks a lot. Regarding Wano's plot threads, Apu and X-Drake interaction was highlighting the themes of betrayal in the arc. X-Drake declining his offer to betray Luffy was to prove Kaido wrong about alliances. Okay, but you can have things that help communicate a theme, right? But that detract from the overall plot, right? So this is a common, like, how do I say this? One, is this something that substantially aided the idea, that substantially added to the idea of loyalty and alliances in the story? I would say no, especially considering X-Drake actually betrayed the Beast Pirates in the first place by being a double agent. I don't think X-Drake can ever be used again I think it's a huge stretch to actually argue that this has any thematic weight, considering X-Drake betrayed the Beast Pirates. There's almost there's no theme of loyalty that can be communicated at this point. Any theme of loyalty that could be communicated would be extremely shallow, considering X-Drake only joined up with Luffy for no reason other than survival, right? So I sharply disagree with the idea that that has any thematic weight whatsoever. I don't think you can argue at all that this has anything to do, that this has whatsoever anything to do whatsoever to the concept of what Oda's trying to argue in terms of themes of loyalty and alliances in this arc. Those themes do exist, but this was not any substantial addition to that, and it says nothing about loyalty or alliances in this in the story to have this little plot line. Like, it adds nothing, right? The second thing is that themes do not excuse everything in a story, okay? For example, and this is just like a really strange thing that I've seen pop up more recently. I think it's the consequence of like YouTube video essays becoming like a popular form of how many people consume. And I'm at fault for this as well, because like I will do video essays on One Piece talking about why the themes of this or that are really, really good, right? That is not the same as criticism. Analysis and criticism are two different things, right? Analysis is just breaking down what the ideas are. Criticism is breaking down how well it's executed and implemented in the story, right? So a simple example would be like, I think a lot of people consume video essays and they're like, oh, this has this meaning, that makes it good. But it's like, no, that just means that that's what the meaning is. That does not have anything to do with how well the story was told, okay? So a simple example is like Alabasta, right? The theme of Alabasta is friendship. That's the number one theme of Alabasta. Now, let's say the final battle's happening, Luffy's fighting Crocodile, etc. They're in the middle of the final battle, Crocodile's laughing about the bomb, yada, 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 and then suddenly Luffy stops and says, you want to be friends? And Crocodile's like, friendship? I've never had a friend. Let's be friends. Let me stop the plot on Alabasta. And then the story ends. This would go along with the theme of friendship and would go along with the idea that friendship's important, right? And it would actually even fit some of the messaging in the arc. Like Mr. 2 says, friendship isn't about like how long you've known each other, right? Luffy and Crocodile could just meet and become friends. It would still be ass storytelling for every other reason in the story that doesn't have to do with themes, because themes are just one component of what a story is about. It's one component of a story. That's it. X-Drake, Apu, that scene has no thematic value to the story. If it does, it's contradictory, considering that X-Drake, if its purpose was thematics, if its purpose was themes, then it's contradictory, because X-Drake literally was a double agent working against the Beast Pirates the entire time, and he only joined up with Luffy for survival and self-preservation, not out of actual loyalty to Luffy, right? So there's nothing there, no substance there whatsoever. And finally, it wouldn't even matter, because that plotline added nothing to the story in terms of any other aspect, right? It just detracted from every other scene that was taking place in Onigashima at the time that carried a lot more weight, and the narrative was actually built around to focus on two characters who were basically the most minor of minor characters in the story, and kept taking up story space to basically not build the plot any further, not build the narrative any further, just to take up screen time and slow down the pace of the rest of everything that's happening. Did not affect the tone, did not affect tension. They had no relation to any, because like Apu's not part of the Beast Pirates at this point. X-Drake's not part of any group at this point. It's just two characters, right? It has no interesting character writing, nothing. All right, continuing on from there. I still appreciate the super, but it's just like that's a hard stretch of an argument. Batman for real, thanks for the 5. I'm sorry, but I gotta say this. Translation aside, what the fuck is the point of releasing the chapter on Saturday? It's one day away from the official. Some people are saying Thanksgiving for TCB, but at the same time, TCB also released on Saturday last chapter, I think, so I don't really know what's going on. Yeah, Oof says Breath of the Wild story is better. Yeah, but it also has a bad story, right? So it's like, I wouldn't play Breath of the Wild for this story either, just because it's better than Tears of the Kingdom. If Tears of the Kingdom does everything better except story, I'm not going to go play Breath of the Wild for better story, because I hear the story's not good. If Breath of the Wild had a really good story, I'd probably go play that for that then, but it sounds like it doesn't. Mods, please help him see the message. What's going on, Fading Phase? What's going on? What did I miss? Fading Phase says, Yo, Morj, I want to send you a huge paragraph arguing one of your points of criticism. Wano, where could I message you so I don't have to drop 200 on a super chat law? It's just going to have to... You could become a Pirate King member, submit it as a Pirate King question. Pirate King member, that's a pretty low bar. You can become a Pirate King member, submit it as a Pirate King question, and then I'll respond to it there. But I can't just be getting in a huge back and forth with you here on if you've got like a really long Wano criticism. But everything in the Parking podcast, I respond to very in depth. Angel, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Oh, TomTom, I did see this. I finished a VOD. So TomTom says you could do a stream where each participant gets around 5 minutes to pitch a manga recommendation to you. I saw a YouTuber do this once and it was fun. I'd consider that, but I don't know. Like 5 minutes to pitch a manga recommendation, because what's the final result? Which is, I already know a lot of the manga that I'd be interesting or willing to read. You guys have already voted that I have to read Vagabond. I have not yet started Vagabond outside of the first chapter. I will eventually read Vagabond, but I don't know what the end result is. And I already know the manga that I'm generally interested in reading for the most part here. Fading Phase, welcome to Pirate King. All right. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. Just go right now to the community post for Pirate King members. You should be able to find where you can submit. I appreciate that. Eric says, we still talking about Wano, let it go, lol? No, man, because all of post time skip was build up to Wano. So that's like saying let every arc... That's like saying forget about every One Piece storyline between chapters 650 to 1050. That's like saying forget about the 400 chapters of One Piece. That's like kind of insane, in my opinion. TomTom says you could also do it with video games. But the thing is, I already know you guys already pitched me a lot from here. You know? LogTM says manga recommendation is Magi. Magi? I've seen some random clips of Magi that I think are fun, but I don't know. Is it like a good? Eric says it was bag. Let it go. Then he corrects it to bag again. If I tried Centuria, the first chapter was good and comes from Fujimoto's assistants. I think somebody told me recently. One of my friends told me recently about Centuria. Let me see. No, never mind. Centuria. I've never heard of that one. Interesting. So is this recent? Ah, it's recent. Okay. Let me open this one up too. This seems cool. Civ actually recommended me some cool manga that I want to try as well. Magi, I don't know how it is. It has a Berserk Lovecraftian vibe from just the first chapter. Okay, so I gotta try that. Sakamoto Days is a must. I'm telling you right now, so I'm gonna watch the rest of Dandadan, then probably read Dandadan if I'm liking it. Then Sakamoto Days I'm gonna read, and then I was thinking I'd do Vagabond next. That's my next set of manga. Jolly D. Joestar says, have you read the Hunter x Hunter chapter yet? Yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought Hunter x Hunter chapter was really good. I actually read it live on stream. I want to say last stream. I think I read it live on stream. Eric said, you remember in Act 2 when we talked and already said Wano arc was fucked already? I do remember. At that point in time, I had so much faith in Oda, I was just like, it can't be like this. It can't be this way. There's going to be a second half to the arc. There just has to be. That was my opinion. Because I believe too much. Oof says, I would suggest get to episode 7 of Dandadan. If you're not on board, just skip it. Kind of like how Arlong Park is for One Piece. Yeah, because I've seen like a little bit of spoilers kind of like some beautiful stuff that happens in episode 7 and everyone was going crazy over it. So I'm definitely intent on getting there. So we'll see. Also, I'm going to call stream in the next 5 minutes. So just going to answer the last few questions. Andrew Anami says, Morj never reading my favorite manga of all time, Konjiki no Gashi, because most of the chat never read it, let alone heard of it. I've never heard of it. Konjiki no... I'll look it up. Hold it. Oh, Zatch Bell? Dude, just call it Zatch Bell. I used to see Zatch Bell pop up on, like, fucking Toonami all the time, and it looked cool. They had good advertisements for it, but I just never got into it. Sheriff Floppy, thanks for 5. If Drake beats Apu, at least you could say something was accomplished. We got nothing. It's weird because Beehive was a natural fit for his character. Yeah. I don't know. Even Drake beating Apu is just like, it's like, what's the point? Because Drake wasn't a character that we were, like, there was no story for him throughout the arc, you know? So it's just a fight for the sake of a fight. Eric Trelato says it was just emotionally fucked. He couldn't fix it logistically. No, but that's my whole point. My belief was that, oh no, he will have a major dramatic moment partway through the arc because there's nothing emotional going on so far in the story. There's no dramatic crux to the storyline. So he will have that partway through the storyline, right? So they can't just win here because we're missing all the emotion. We're missing all the storytelling. We're missing all the drama. And then it's like, oh no, they just won. That's basically it. That was where my faith was there, that Oda always thinks of really powerful midpoints to his arcs. It just didn't happen this time, in my opinion. Eric says, every artist makes mistakes. I forgive Oda. There's nothing to forgive. Like, he's still my favorite storyteller, right? He's telling the story with what he enjoys, etc. And I really enjoyed Egghead Island. It's one of my favorite arcs in the story. Top 6, I would say. And then, obviously, I'm really enjoying Elbaf so far. But at the same time, it's like, it's not a there's a lot of story that builds up to Wano, which is why it's not something that's easy to stop talking about. Like, for example, I didn't love, or at least a lot of people didn't love Fishman Island, but it quickly became something that was not talked about after a bit because it's kind of just like not that important narratively to the story. Like, it sets up several important things, but it wasn't that long of an arc. It wasn't that important of an arc. It was kind of a breather arc before we moved on to other stuff. Wano's not the same, so it's hard to just not talk about it. Random guy 123, thanks for the 5. I agree, but I don't think it's the same as a drop plot point, just undercooked and perhaps a fumble in execution. I mean, at a certain point, it's like, what does that mean? Like, drop plot point, is it any different? It's a pointless plot point, right? Or it's one that he did not spend much time on. I'm just saying that Onigashima is full of that sort of thing, where it's like, okay, this thing started, but it didn't seem to lead anywhere and had no real purpose at the end of the day. LockTM says, at least One Piece isn't turning into sketches like Jujutsu Kaisen. One Piece is a far way off from, like One Piece right now, it's still, like, it's still head and shoulders above everything else, in my opinion. Hunter x Hunter, I think, is also operating in its own level. Just, its strengths are very different from One Piece's strengths, so it's hard to compare. I think Chainsaw Man is phenomenal weekly. I haven't read Dandadan, so I don't know, but people say Dandadan is phenomenal as well right now. But for the general manga, it's really, for general manga sphere, One Piece is still, like, king overall, right? Like, I know from so many series like Demon Slayer ending, My Hero ending, Jujutsu Kaisen ending, like, all of them scream, like, how much better One Piece is overall. Like, it's just that the standard of One Piece is so high that it's, like, it's competing with itself in terms of, like, how good any given arc is, you know? Infinitely Purple, thanks a lot for your first super ever. If you haven't already played Disco Elysium, if you like detective novels, you'd love it. I've heard of that one. Great art, great cast of characters, a lot of choices. One of the best games I've ever played. So I love detective shit. I love detective novels. I've read most of Agatha Christie stuff. Does it have, like, a really good mystery to solve in there? Because that sounds fun to me. It has a really good mystery to solve. One Piece's art quality only dropped in its Tom says Morj ain't gonna play a game where he isn't killing things. I mean, if it's cheap, if it's like a $60 game, I'm never gonna play it. If it's on sale for like $15, I might play it. Oof says One Piece's art quality only dropped in its line quality. It used to be cleaner, but everything else in design and creativity is still S tier. Yeah, I personally feel like it's panel to panel that I think that One Piece's art is nowhere near, like, you can just do a clear comparison. It's nowhere near what it once was. But the pages and spreads that he goes hard on are beautiful. Like, and probably the best that he's done. Like, I think his peak drawing ability has gone up over time, but his average drawing ability has, because he's focused more on trying to get in as much content in a given chapter. So I think his average artwork of One Piece has gone down. The peak panels and spreads have gone up, in my opinion. Like, if you were to compare, like, a lot of the cool islands that he used to draw, like, a lot of the cooler spreads, like Water 7 or like Chandra or Skypiea, if you were to compare, it's a lot simpler visually than what he does now. Like even starting from post time skip, like Fishman Island's Ryugu Palace, or like Elbaf, like we just got, or like the interior of Zoe. They're all very detailed drawings, like much more detailed than what he used to do. Even spreads like the 5 Gorosei, that's like a cut above what he used to do. So I think his peak artistic ability has gone up. Shogun says play Devil May Cry 5. That's another one that I've heard of that I think is kind of on my list. I've seen the combat of it. The combat is very combo based. It seems like a lot of fun. Abrar Met says he will never like Devil May Cry, not for him. I've also thought about Final Fantasy. What about Final Fantasy? Those games sound fun. Is Final Fantasy like is that like some good shit? Like what are the Final Fantasy games like, especially the newer ones? Sorry, one second. Final Fantasy 16 or 7 remake. Eric says no, they're yap fests. New X7 says I don't think you'll like Final Fantasy. Typical JRPG BS, but I haven't played JRPGs, so I don't really know. Final Fantasy 16 combat dev is the same as DMC with a good fantasy story. Final Fantasy 7 has Kingdom Hearts-like combat. Okay. Each game is an anthology with a new set of characters. There's no set plot to each anthology. Does it all take place in the same universe or totally different? I've played a bit of Final Fantasy 16 at a friend's place, so I know that one. That one isn't like turn-based. You actually do combat, right? Warvo says I could see you liking Xenoblade as well. Totally different. Okay. Different universe with same/different elements. Okay, so kind of like how the Souls games are very, like, Dark Souls versus Bloodborne versus Elden Ring, totally different universes, but very similar gameplay elements. Is it kind of like that? Ace says, have you played Bloodborne? Yes, Bloodborne is my favorite game that I've played. Eric says, Morj doesn't like yapping in games, lol, stop giving him JRPGs. Maybe I will. Like, maybe I've just never experienced a game with good enough yapping, you know? So do I play 7, or do I play the 7 remake, or like 7 Rebirth? I just know 7 is the good, important one with like Cloud and shit, you know? You guys want to see something really quick? Here, hold on. Here. Here's an idea of like what I enjoy. Here we go. It's taking a bit. Hold on. What the fuck? Okay, I was trying to find a tier list for Zelda games. Let's do that really quick, but I was trying to do just 3D Zeldas. Yeah, okay. I mean, we can do this really quick. Here we go. Real quick. Um, what about the? Hold on. I've heard that there might be a Bloodborne remake at Bloodborne's 10th anniversary to help launch the PS6 or something like that. Play 7 remake. 7 original will be too dated for you. Okay. Abramet says I prefer OG 7 though. Unix 7 says Wind Waker still has the best story. It has the most charming story for me. I would agree Wind Waker has the best story. I think I love Ocarina of Time's like story as a concept, but Wind Waker you're the most immersed in, I guess, the story. Here we go. Yeah, this is just for fun. It's doing a quick off the cuff little ranking. Is Bloodborne 2 here? I don't think Bloodborne needs a sequel. I think the only Dark Souls... I don't think Bloodborne makes sense having a sequel, because at the end... I guess spoilers for Bloodborne is okay. It's like fucking old as fuck, right? It's almost 10 years old. Mild spoilers for Bloodborne. At the end, if you do like the right ending, you basically turn into... like... You turn into sort of like a god in a sense, right? Like a great one. So it doesn't really make sense to have a sequel unless you're playing as like not the hunter. I don't know. I think Bloodborne's world doesn't need to be. I think it works with the right amount of mystery that it still has, and you're still. I think exploring it too much more would take away some of the mystique around it. I think Sekiro is the one Dark Souls FromSoft game that could really use a sequel. Sekiro is actually perfect for a sequel, and Sekiro never got a DLC. So for me, I've only played the 3D Zeldas, and I haven't even played Breath of the Wild, okay? They're all generally very good. Don't need a rofer, never played. Okay. I personally have... Am I screen sharing right now? Yeah. Okay. So I personally got... Yeah, so let's say I think... Okay, this is what Okay, so my favorite game is Majora's Mask. Alright? Majora's Mask is my favorite. Alright? I think Ocarina is very, very good. Like... If I were to say my favorites would go in this order, okay? Favorites would go in basically, yeah, this order. Yeah, something like this, this, and then this, and then where's Tears of the Kingdom at? Where's Tears of the Kingdom at? I guess technically, if we're going by the actual game, does it not have Tears of the Kingdom? The fuck's Tears of the Kingdom? Gotta find another one. Hold on. Zelda games. How come there's not just like an easy list of Zelda games? Okay, I guess we do this. Right? This should have everything. Alright. Where the fuck's Tears of the Kingdom? Okay, here we go. Alright. Okay, I'm gonna keep Tears of the Kingdom separate right now. Alright, I'm just keeping it separate. Just separate, alright? It's not like it's not bad. I'm just keeping it separate, okay? Where the fuck's... Okay, so let's say Ocarina, right? Wind Waker. Don't worry about the versions. The versions are whatever, alright? Is this supposed to be Majora's Mask? Yeah. Majora's Mask. Where is Twilight Princess? This is Twilight Princess, right? Yeah. Twilight Princess. Is this Skyward Sword? Yeah. Okay. Alright, so if I were to just quickly rattle... Oh, what the fuck? Why are there multiple... Whatever. Alright. If I were to rattle off really quickly my favorite... In order of my favorites, it would be something like... This. This would be the order of my favorites, with I think Tears of the Kingdom being something like either 1, 2, or 3. I think I have to finish Tears of the Kingdom to feel my full feelings about it, you know. But yeah, Tears of the Kingdom would be somewhere here, 1, 2, or 3. If I were to say what I think is the best, like just straight up what I think is the best of these games, like Wind Waker I really like just because of it has its hooks in me in terms of just like I find it very very charming. Okay, I think that it's actually a very flawed Zelda game overall. If I were to say what I think are the best Zelda games, it goes something like this. So I'd bump Wind Waker down a little bit. But I still think it's better than Skyward Sword. I just like Wind Waker because I just like the feeling of it. And the feeling is hard to quantify, but I just like the feeling of it. So, yeah, if I were to say best Zelda games, would be something like this. I feel like it's something along these lines. I'd say, like, Majora and Ocarina are, like, damn near flawless games. I think their only flaws are things that are related to gameplay being a little outdated. But I think they're really, really tight games. I think from Wind Waker onwards, something happened. I think, one, the game director shifted, and what you can tell that changed is a lot more fluff and bloat being added to the games. Kind of like how I talk about how I feel like One Piece became a lot more bloated with its arcs and characters and stuff as time went on, and plot threads, arc to arc. I think that once you got to Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, there are just notable extended segments of these games that are there to pad time. And that wasn't the case, I feel like, in Ocarina or Wind Waker or Majora's Mask. Like, even Twilight Princess, which is, like, that's the first Zelda game I completed, so you would think I would have the most nostalgia for it. And for a while, that was my favorite game, because that was the only video game I really had, like, played that I really loved. That went down over time as I played more Zelda games, especially once I played Ocarina and realized how much Twilight just pulled from Ocarina. But I realized that Ocarina is just a tighter version of Twilight Princess. Tighter in every aspect. The story is more cohesive. This just throws in, Twilight Princess just throws in Ganondorf for no reason. And then on top of that, it's just like, in Twilight Princess, you're fucking made to play, like, purely for time padding purposes, every area that you get to, you are made to be a wolf and find these Twilight bugs for, like, the first half of that section. Like, and then you get to do the dungeon. And it's just the most repetitive, time-paddy thing ever, and it just does it every single time, right? Wind Waker, it had the whole Triforce quest. And again, like, I think once you got to islands and areas, there was just some time-padding section that they thought out for the beginning of it, right? Skyward Sword, there's a dowsing section at the beginning of every fucking dungeon area that you get to. Like, it just repeats the same beats each time, and there's clear segments where it's just like, we need you to do some bullshit quest, right? So Twilight Princess, it's a fucking, like, there's not much good stuff towards the beginning of the game, and, like, just the whole first half of the game, it's very slow because the only good sections are the dungeons, and then everything else in between is just this wolf bullshit that's not fun. Not a single person has ever been like, oh boy, I get to play as a wolf for this part of the game. And like, oh boy, I get to put away my sword, all my tools, play as a fucking, like, essentially disabled character for the next hour. That's essentially what happens repeatedly in Twilight Princess. And it's just bizarre because it's kind of like, if you look at the gimmicks of each game, right? Like, the gimmick of Wind Waker is sailing. The gimmick of Ocarina of Time is, like, transferring between the different timelines, right? Gimmick of Majora's Mask is the masks, right? And really the 3-day time cycle, right? These are all things that make the games more fun. Twilight Princess, the gimmick is the transforming into a wolf and going into shadow mode. The gimmick is the worst part of the game. So if, like, the one unique defining feature of the game is the worst aspect of the game, that really is what's stopping me from putting Twilight Princess in S tier with the rest of it. Because it's just like Ocarina of Time, but if Ocarina of Time had, like, random bullshit added to it that was worse. Wind Waker, there's just too much to the game. Like, the dungeons aren't that good. The world actually feel like the sailing can get boring, but it's also nostalgic for me. And then on top of that, the dungeons aren't good, bosses aren't good, items aren't good. The Triforce quest is really bad. There's just too much bad shit in Wind Waker, but I like it a lot. Like, I would put it as my second favorite game just because, I don't know, it just has a weird nostalgic charm for me. And Skyward Sword, I think it's been beaten to death why there's problems with it. Tears of the Kingdom, I need to finish to decide where it goes. I think Tears of the Kingdom, I put in like 200 hours, so I love the game clearly. I've just gotten tired of the game, and I found myself longing for some sort of sense of momentum or progress or something new. Like, I want dungeons and stuff like that. So I don't know how to evaluate the game, because it's like, but I got so much enjoyment out of it. was I just like, I think I got a lot of enjoyment out of it because I always felt like there was going to be something more interesting down the line. So I thought I was checking off a lot of the simpler stuff to get to the more interesting shit. But now I'm just like, okay, I don't know if there actually is that some really deep, complex shit, like really interesting shit in this game that I'm really waiting on still. So I feel like it will end up. I need some time and space after finishing it. I think it will end up either as my first or second, or like my like I think out of my favorite games, it'll either be first, second, or third. I think it's already past Up Ocarina for me. In terms of how good I think the games are, I think I would put I would think I'd put Tears of the Kingdom also in this S tier. I mean, the gameplay is so good in so many ways. It's kind of like the highs are so like the things it does well are so like it's like from a like it's so far advanced from all the other Zelda games in terms of gameplay concepts, but then how you apply them, like the lack of dungeons, the lack of good like story or progression, all of that is what holds it back. So it's really complicated because it's like it's almost like a different game entirely. Like these are all easy to compare to one another. This is really hard. It's just like gameplay wise, it's light years ahead of the others, but how those gameplay mechanics are applied for the open world setting, what you can actually find in the open world, lack of complex level design like dungeons and stuff like that, lack of a cohesive story or like way to immerse yourself in a narrative. It's just really hard to place. So I think let me finish the game and I'll see. So that's my feelings on the Zelda games. All right, let me catch up on Supers, and then we're probably going to call it a day here. One second real quick. Jolly D. Joseph, thanks for the 2. Persona 3 is a good way to get into JRPG. Is Persona 3 like the one with like Joker and stuff? Persona 3. Is that with Joker? Persona 5 is Joker. I've heard that Persona fans are odd. So I don't know. I don't know if I want to get into Persona and become an odd person. But I guess I already am to some degree. All One Piece fans are somewhat like that, right? So maybe I'll try Persona, but I don't know. I'd probably be more likely to try Final Fantasy if I'm trying a JRPG, just because I've heard more about it. JWP, thanks for the 5. I just got here, can't stay. Do you think Oda's cooking anything with Louis or not? Jorbo, maybe. I don't know. It's weird that he's showing up again. So JWP, thanks as usual for coming through, and thanks for the support, man. Towards the beginning of the stream, we did talk a bit about the possibility that the silhouette could be Louis or not. And some people even suggested that Louis Arnott is a pseudonym for Scopper Gabon, but I think the timelines and ages don't line up. So the silhouette might be Louis Arnott. I personally prefer Louis Arnott just to be like some unknown, like random explorer that makes the One Piece world feel more alive. I don't need every character that we've heard of in like a book or like whatever. Like I don't need that, yeah, like that fictional physicist that said like everything man can imagine is a possibility in reality to be like a character that we meet. So it's just stuff that makes the One Piece world feel lived in. I don't need Louis Arnott to actually show up in the story, but if it is Louis Arnott, that's cool. Maybe let's see how it goes. All right, everybody, we're gonna call it there. Yeah, we're gonna call it there. I'm just seeing the comments about the, yeah. Ocarina's mid. I think Ocarina's just a very clean game. I think that it has good gameplay all the way through. I think you're always doing, like, either you're doing a dungeon or you're doing something interesting that gets to the next dungeon, or you're doing an interesting mini dungeon. I think Ocarina just holds up as a very clean game. Like, it's the game without, I think that there's almost no weak sections of Ocarina of Time. Majora's Mask is the Chainsaw Man of Zelda games. Yeah, Majora's Mask is just conceptually so brilliant, and I think it has the best dungeons of any Zelda game, and I think that, just artistically, like, it makes me feel the most and has the most powerful vibe. Like, it almost feels like on a different level than the other Zelda games. And then I think it's the games after Majora's Mask and Ocarina that I feel like are very flawed and have like a lot of issues with them, or a lot of sections that are just like, really? This feels more commercialized, more to pad time, more like less creative, stuff like that, you know? Except till Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild are obviously mind-blowing in their own right. Axolotl says Ocarina is mid. It's great for being the first 3D Zelda, but it's aged poorly. I really don't think it's aged poorly. I think it actually holds up phenomenally well because I think the dungeons are still really, really good by today's standards. Maybe the combat's a little boring, but like at the same time, the combat's harder than like Twilight Princess or Wind Waker. So even though they have better mechanics in Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, the combat in Ocarina of Time, like, it's more challenging. Like, you're more likely to die to, like, an Iron Knuckle and, like, actually have to think while engaging with it than you do, like, a Dark Nut in Twilight Princess. Yeah, I think Ocarina of Time holds up really well. I think Ocarina of Time also has, like, a really beautiful little story concept, right, for the coming of age. It does that really, really well. New X7, thanks for 5. Chance's dragon was the hero of the Marines at God Valley who helped Roger with rocks, but it was erased by the world government from history due to also attacking the God's Knights and Celestial Dragons. I don't think so. I think it really was Garp. I think that was a Garp thing. I think that might have been too early for Dragon. I think whatever Dragon's story is, I think Oda's just really keeping it under wraps because it's set to be something really interesting that we get later on in the story. But I think the God Valley incident was really, that was the old generation's, like, that was the old generation's Super Bowl. Like, that was their moment. Like, that was the big battle, legendary battle of that group of characters. So I think Dragon just is for a later point in time. All right, everybody. I'm going to call it here. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And yeah, we'll talk to you all later. Good shit. I'm glad One Piece is back. And yeah, just watch out for the chapter review. It'll consolidate a lot of these thoughts. And next Tuesday's video will be an interesting one regarding Heaven's Realm. Because I think there's something that is being hinted at here regarding Heaven Realm that a lot of